he won on time.
She resigned a winning position for her.
I wanted it so bad, and he did it.
Now take the rook. Now take the rook.
What a move!
And as the late and great Biggie Smalls once said, whether the game shakes me or breaks me, I just hope it makes me a better man. I know being next to you, Robert, always makes me a better commentator. I'm excited to see you, despite No Shave November that you're rocking. How excited are you for MVL
Well, I'm super excited that Maxime and I, we're on the same wavelength here. Both got the beards, glasses, and baby blue sweaters going. But I honestly am so stoked for this matchup because I think it's going to be one of the most hotly contested, one that people definitely had problems predicting. And I think between the two of us, Danny, we're not even sure who we find to be the favorite in this matchup.
No, you really do. And again, obviously, we know all these guys who play in the SEC pretty well, but these two guys are about as big of sweethearts as it gets, right? I mean, Maxime and Wesley, it's hard not to root for either of these guys to move on, and so ultimately we got to do the right thing and root for whoever plays better chess to move into the semifinals, and we'll find out who's going to do so. Let's do what we normally do here and run through the format, remind people of what is in store here for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Wesley. So the 2019 Speed Chess Championship is the same dog and pony dance you've been watching for years. You love it. We love it. It's 90 minutes of 5-1, 60 minutes of 3-1, and then 30 minutes of bullet. It's a single elimination bracket, and of course the winner not only moves on to the next round, but often takes home a lot of cash in the process. Now, you already mentioned the predictions, Robert, and I think that the predictions do have a lot of people split. So we're going to move right into that and break down what people see here. Now, I've noticed something about the graphic we're going to show people here. It says the smarter Hess prediction. So did you adjust this yourself, or is that something that we're now being trolled with live?
I've done nothing, but I think we're being trolled by the amazing Smarter Chess, because I don't know if I would have predicted Wesley So as a 63% favorite, but I think it actually makes some sense. And you must be looking at me, Danny, be like, wait, Maxime an underdog in the Speed Chess Championship, not playing Hikaru Nakamura, not playing Magnus Carlsen? Well, the key to this matchup, honestly, is that Wesley So has been the best performer. And if you take an average of the 5+1 and 3+1 blitz segments, Wesley So has been the best performer throughout Speed Chess Championship history. And he's only lost his matchups last year in the finals to Hikaru Nakamura, and he was tied after all the blitz games were said and done, and he lost to Magnus Carlsen. That was a lopsided affair. But those are the only two defeats he has suffered in the SEC.
No, it's a great point. And previously to that, his loss was to Magnus Carlsen, right? So while Wesley maybe doesn't pop into people's brains when they think of, hey, rank the top 3 or 5 best blitz and bullet players on Chess.com, or rank the top performers in Speed Chess Championship history, the truth is he is right up there. And we spent some time talking with Matt Jensen, who does a great job with the Smarter Chess predictions, as much as we have fun pointing out when he's wrong. But you're right, and he said that Wesley has really been one of the most consistent performers. He is coming off a huge win in Oslo, Norway. The official random World Chess Champion is who you're looking at there on the right side of your screen. And so I do disagree with the prediction. I actually think that Maxime is significantly better in the bullet portion. And to me, if this match is within a game or two before they head into that fastest segment, I do expect Maxime to be the favorite. But okay, that's why it's a coin flip. That's why so many people don't know who's going to move into that spot and face off against Vladislav Artemiev in the semifinals. And it's why we already have almost 4,000 of you with us across multiple platforms wherever you're tuning in from. So a lot of people, I think, anticipating this as one of the most exciting matchups. We're not allowed to say which website actually has a line on predicting SEC matches. A lot of these big events we hold actually have chess lines that now we think of Vegas when you think of that. But you can tell there's a split because that website actually also sees Maxime as the favorite, despite us seeing Wesley So as the favorite. So it's a coin flip for a reason. Can't wait to see what happens today. And I also can't wait to see what people have to say about our daily question, Robert, because at the end of the day yesterday, we had an interview with Dingley Wren, and he made it clear that he was tired and he was playing late. Now, one of the things that's so great about technology is it allows us to do the Speed Chess Championship match. We're bringing people, a direct webcam view to Dingley Ren, number 2 player in the world, in a way that you don't even get to see him when he's playing over the board, right? But at the same time, we're working with these guys' schedules, and you're trying to get people in from all different time zones, whatever. And so, we also see so many night owls, guys like Robert Hess, after, basically getting into like fights in the streets of New York, pop in and play Blitz at 3 a.m. on their phone, right? I mean, Robert, I can't wait to see what people think of this, whether playing at a different time can really affect your play, or if ultimately, if you're playing well or not, probably doesn't really have that much of an effect about the time zone. But anyway, can't wait to see what the fans think, and I'm curious what you think, Robert, as we get set to start here in a moment.
I was going to make a joke at your expense about how it didn't matter what time of day you played because Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is going to adopt you tomorrow in Adopted Danny. But I didn't want to be the mean guy. So if I was going to be mean, I would have said that in sincere fashion. But that's not me. I respect you,
like
Danny.
A good New Yorker, you just have the best way to just make me feel,
just at home.
At home.
Because I'm in the city that never sleeps. So why should time of day affect my match? Why should it affect my skills?
Yep, exactly. Well, let us know in chat. We know so many of you are already active. Shout out to Speedy Cyclone, FM Ellipso, Mighty Warrior, premium members in Chess TV chat. We've got so many of you. We got Chess Bay, we got Chess we got Tayeb99. We got people all across the globe watching this and chatting. So let us know your opinion, please, with the hashtag SpeedChess on Twitter. And you might, if you really impress us, you might get a diamond membership. But if not, you'll probably have your Twitter account at least shown on the show. So, all right. Well, we are moments away, as we said. We have both players here. It may be an interesting thing that we come back to. We know that Wesley So arrived in Kolkata. Not yesterday, I think the day before. So he may have a little bit of jet lag, but overall he is about to play in the final Rapid and Blitz leg of the 2019 Grand Chess Tour, right? So he's not in his normal time zone. Maxime is in his normal time zone, but he's also wearing a blue sweatshirt, and that matches you, and so that clearly comes with a lot of bad juju, a lot of bad vibes. So who knows who's got the better of it today.
Wow, Danny, I'm a little bit offended that you would go out of your way to talk about my sweater negatively. But if we talk about the chess for a second, you did mention that Wesley's about to play in the final leg of the Grand Chess Tour. That means he's probably been preparing because he was just in the Super Bet and now he's playing in India. So he probably is studying openings very thoroughly. And I'm curious to see how this will pan out in this match. Both players very well prepared. Stylistically, I think they're a very interesting matchup because Wesley So is a very technical player. He's very sound. He's very precise. Maxime likes to mix things up a little bit more because he is the renowned Najdorf player that we've seen over the last bunch of years. Sometimes they get him into trouble. Sometimes he wins nice games in that line. And here we have an open Spanish, right? You see that a pawn has been captured on d5, which opens the rook on e1 to the attacking pawn on e5. But note that Maxime is not just gobbling that pawn. I know many people say, wait a second, I count 2 attackers and now zero defenders. Before there was 1. But the point is that black gets ample compensation if you're going ahead and just snatch that pawn because of the open board and the very nicely placed bishop on b7 in particular.
Well, and you highlighted whether opening prep is going to be a major storyline here. I predicted that Jan Nepomniachtchi yesterday would really try to get the best out of the first stage, especially because he feels he was the faster player. If he was confident and comfortable, as he said, even better than getting a good position, or less important than that. You can't always rely on out-preparing your opponent and getting an advantage. But if you're confident and you're comfortable, that's going to lead to good things when it comes to rapid and blitz chess. So I'm with you on both these guys really challenging each other in theory. We know how seriously they take these events, and I think we might learn something today. The games have begun. Remind everybody you can go over to chess.com/live and follow the games directly if you're into that. And you can stick right here with me and Robert, no matter where you're tuning in from. Thanks for making Chess TV part of your day. All right, so what do we got here, Robert?
Well, we got a position where white is up a pawn, and if I'm being honest, this throws me back to a painful memory where I was on the U.S. Olympiad team with Alexander Onishuk, and he had the black piece against Sergei Karyakin, and it wasn't this exact position, but a similar position where you sacrifice a pawn for the potential of this light square diagonal, but mainly the 2 bishops. And white has not fully developed yet. Look at the white queen side, the bishop on c1, the rook on a1. You don't really love having a knight on b3 either, but black has to prove that the compensation is not just that what we call compensation, this vague term that we use, but actually becomes something concrete. So how do we make it concrete? We play moves like bishop h4 and put our bishop on g3. We start getting a bit of an attack over there on the king side. We may start with like rook a to e8. Think once I move this bishop away from the e7 square, now your knight on e5 is under attack. And he plays bishop d6, so similar conceptually to bishop h4, because he can play bishop g3 now. But perhaps the bishop is sitting pretty on d6 and doesn't need to move there just yet. And a move like rook a to e8 to start with is a preferable option.
I don't know why. I just like these positions more for black long term than you do, I guess.
I'm supporting black's position.
Okay, because you were saying, I was reading your tone as black really has something to prove here in the compensation, but the more I look at it, you love the bishop here. I don't know.
Yeah, I know you were actually sort of reading correctly into my tone. What I would say is that I like black's chances, but if you don't do something concrete, it's one of those positions where you end up just down a pawn. And actually, I think they're like, what if I go knight h6 check here?
Oh, that actually looks really nice. In fact, you'd love to meet knight h6 check with a move like king h8, but then just knight f5, I think, guards everything and forks the queen and bishop. So why didn't he go for that?
Well, he can go for it now.
Yeah.
He's fortunate that it's not too late to do it the second time.
Knight h6 check. The whole point, everybody, is if pawn takes, rook g4 check, king moves, and then, okay, rook takes g3, you've won back your piece and probably gained some interest along the way with the dark squares being completely blown open.
In fact, I think he's going to play because the rook has no moves right now. So, and you don't really want to play bishop takes b4, as by playing bishop b4, and he does it. Oh, okay, he found knight h6 check, but he took on b4 first. I thought keeping the bishops made more sense. This looks perfectly good to me as well, because you can't stop knight f5 unless you take my knight, and as you point out, rook g4 picks up that bishop on g3. And Wesley shook his head, so I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think he saw that coming, based on his reaction there. So if the king moves and we get knight to f5, the problem for black is there's no tricks here. There's no way to avoid just the trade of the dark square bishop for the knight, which greatly favors white. Your white is already up a pawn, as you've been highlighting, and I guess that's, so even though we both liked black, and then I misunderstood your tone, and now we both like white.
We're on the same page, Danny. That's a good sign. But I will say the reason why I spotted that tactic so quickly, I think it's very important to explain why people might not see a tactic or why you do in fact see the tactic. The reason I saw it so quickly is I had a lesson late last night with my student, and I was saying whenever there's a king and another piece on the same file, you always have to think about if a rook can land on that square. And that sounds, of course, Robert, I want to think about a rook checking a king, but I was just going over a position that wasn't quite like this, but had similar themes. And so I think, okay, how do I get rid of the G pawn and put my rook on the same line? There goes knight h6 check.
Yep.
So I think just training yourself to think about these things in broader terms can help you find them in a practical game situation.
No, it really is, and we touch on that a lot because we're both kind of chess teachers and coaches at heart. And I think people ask, well, how do you spot those tactics? Well, a lot of times it is just building the alarm. I always called it the alarm clock, building the muscle of when you see a piece that's on the same line as a king, or when you see a queen and a piece on the same diagonal or file, you have to just. It doesn't mean you always have the license to kill and always become obsessed with sacrifices, but if you don't consider the potential consequences of pieces like that being on the same line, then you will miss tactics. So I think that's a great point. And we see now Maxime has given back the pawn, but at the cost of, if you look at So's position, these doubled pawns, the F pawn is weak. I think
b4 is hanging. The queen needs to stay on the dark diagonal, the long diagonal, otherwise you get checkmated. So queen takes b4 is probably a pawn you can just scoop up and say, well, thanks for the material. I'll go up a pawn once more.
Yep. Okay, so he's taking his time here, but he earned it, right? He was up almost a minute on the clock here at one point, and now he's still up 30 seconds.
Yep.
He'll trade. My guess is he might even just take a8 and just queen takes b4 and get greedy up in this. Like, why not just win your pawn back and keep the party going?
I think it's what he's going to do. And for Wesley, Danny, we like to talk about this a lot, and you're very good at analyzing the psychological perspective of the players. And if you're Wesley, do you just take time here? You know you're going to lose this game most likely. Just take a breath. It's the first game of the match. You had a solid enough opening. You just missed knight h6. Just didn't even come on your radar.
Right.
So you just take your time here, lose the game eventually, but get it behind you. Just say,
right.
Take a few breaths and then start anew.
I think either way, we always talk about that. There are some nerves, and we've even seen the best players in the world do that, where they play out the game much farther than they would over the board, right? They're kind of working out the kinks, working out the nerves, and just making sure that they feel good about their mouse, making sure that they feel good about just where they're at, where they're sitting. I mean, all those things will make a huge difference over a several hour, 30 game plus match online. So. All right, A5 is an interesting move here by So. He's doing everything he can to mix it up. He's down a pawn, and wow, this move Queen E7 is interesting because he's saying if you play A4, I can just take B7, and then your A pawn is actually pinned to A8. Yep. He's also just preparing to bring the other rook over to E1.
Yep.
This looks very good for Maxime. In fact, the other threat on A4 is a move just like D4, cutting off the queen from the diagonal so that things like Queen F6 are,
D4 right now, you're right.
A bit of a problem. In fact, he goes for it. And now the threat of Queen F6 is just too much here for Wesley. So he resigns, throws in the towel, and we already have an impressive victory out of the gate here for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Now, again, Wesley So is supposed to be the favorite in the Blitz time control. So my prediction generally is if Maxime can keep this close, the bullet is where he can pull away. So a good start for the Frenchman.
Although I'm with you. I think we both agree that Wesley is the pre-match favorite in the longer time controls because of his history in the SEC. And actually, Wesley seemed to get stronger with every single match experience he's gained. So the more matches he plays, the stronger he is in this format. That said, I'll give Wesley credit because against Jan-Christoph Duda, he actually crushed Duda in the bullet segment last year when Duda was the bullet specialist. He beat Sergei Karyakin and Alexander Grishuk, largely thanks to his prowess in the speediest time control. So I'm not counting Wesley out until it's really over. We always have this debate between the two of us of how many points behind or ahead must a player be heading into the last segment. I think this one really is anyone's chance as long as they're within 2-3 games.
Oh, I
still
agree,
have an opportunity.
100%. And again, I didn't predict that Wesley So would be the favorite necessarily against Magnus Carlsen in the World Fischer Random Chess Championship, right? But you called me out on that, and he ended up being quite the player. So I think sometimes you just you see these guys throw down in these formats and they surprise you every time. One thing that doesn't surprise us, usually they're playing a very high quality brand of chess, despite the fast time control. So here we have a Sveshnikov. I'm going to take some notes here because I was engaged in some Sveshnikovs recently, and I don't think I played very well as white.
They are very tricky, right? Because you have this scenario where black has the two bishops, but particularly this dark square bishop doesn't have anything to really do, right? It's just sitting on g5 for now, not attacking anything. You have this weakness on d6. At any moment, white might play the move a2 to a4 to break open the queen side and challenge that pawn structure. So you have a potential target on a6 as well. And in general, you could hear the way I'm talking about it. I've always found these positions to be slightly better for white. I prefer to play the white side of these. But Danny, you might have experience with the black side.
No, I actually don't. And I it's one of the only Sicilians I've never ventured to play regularly as black. Positionally, I also feel the same way. I mean, okay, we understand the concepts that black wants well. Things like knight g6, eventually you'd like to maybe even play f5. Black's goals are to try to undermine the grip that white has on the light squares in the center and hopefully use the pieces that are on the king side to launch some sort of attack. But you see Wesley playing very technical here. Again, he's maintaining the grip on the light squares, but at the same time making it difficult for black to do what you would normally want to do in this pawn structure. You want to get things like f5 and f4 and create space on the king side. So Wesley, I think, has a good position here, much better than his first go of it.
Yep. And Danny, I'll add that, we talk about the d5 square often in these Sicilians, but the square I was about to say knight a3 looked pretty good because another square that's essential is the c4 square. Because right now, black has no pieces to cover the light squares. You have this knight on e7 now that covers d5, but now that your pawn on b5 is under attack, if you push b4, here comes knight c4, and not only down goes d6, but let's say I'm not even going to capture that pawn. I'm attacking it, making you put all your energy and resources to defend it. You can't go d5 if I put a rook on d1.
Yep.
So that's always the downside of these positions from Black's perspective. And I think that right now Wesley is dominating this match.
Yeah, I agree. And usually in these Sveshnikovs, early breakthroughs on the king side with f5 are better, right? The structure is positionally always dubious for Black. The light squares and the positional consequences on the d file, the weak pawn, as we've been highlighting. But if it can come with counterplay, if you can get g6 and f5 and start to get space, that's really what the Sveshnikov structure is all about. So this is one of those kind of bad signs for Black. We'd have to back up and look at the theory, and I'll even scroll through it because I'm curious here. We have the analysis board on the right, where exactly it went wrong for Black. And okay, this was a very main line, the knight d5 lines. So this is all theory here. I think already early right here, after the knight e7 line is played, I know there's variations where Black can start playing for g6 and f5 early. The problem is this move knight cb4 by So on move 16, Robert, was really strong because you were threatening knight e7 and knight c6, which is a fork of the queen and rook. And that kind of already tells me, I don't know, I feel like White got some better version of their prep here because this is just looking... I mean, just fantastic. White's up a pawn here in this endgame and playing with house money already.
Well, speaking of prep and kind of weird, don't you think it's a little weird that Maxime didn't play the Najdorf and you played the Sveshnikov? We didn't even talk about it because we're so used to seeing so many different openings.
Right.
But we did mention that Maxime is a Najdorf specialist, and here he chose the Sveshnikov. So do you think he's concerned about what Wesley might have prepared for him? He's just trying to be adventurous? Because we saw him play Hikaru Nakamura, and they played that Berlin a million times.
Yes.
And here on the first game, he's surprising us with his opening. So what do you make of that? You know Maxime very well.
I honestly didn't even think about that. I mean, we highlight so much he is the Najdorf specialist that strikes fear into the heart of his peers. But I think we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious if this is maybe a potential new opening Maxime is working into his repertoire. Because, okay, one of the great things about the Najdorf is he knows it really well. What's the bad thing about playing it all the time? Everyone is preparing for one particular thing, right? And when you give guys who are also, let's say, specialists on the white side of it, guys like Fabiano Caruana in the English attack, we've seen times where it can still be a dicey opening to play if you're going up against very, very deep prepper. And here Wesley just blew Maxime off the board, by the way. I mean, let me show why the resignation happened there, because we started going off on a different kind of storyline. But Maxime, by the way, finally gets, we'll call it the Sveshnikov f5. This move is about 20 moves too late in this position. And after takes and knight to c6, dual threats of knight e7, Forktown, population king and rook, combined with just rushing the a-pawn, and he had enough. So I think the question, Robert, as we come back to the live game here, is whether we'll see this again, right? I mean, will we see Maxime venture into the Sveshnikov more than once?
Great question. After that first foray, I don't know if he really wants to. That was not a good showing on his part, but okay, you're entitled to a single bad game. But in this particular game right now, where we're in game 3, now it's tied 1-1, Wesley should have more confidence. He's playing the black side of a position that I always think is very solid, because with d5, that's where all of the tension is. Whether White will take on d5, in which case Black would prefer to take with the knight and hand White an isolated pawn. But if you take with a knight, you're removing one of your principal king-side defensive pieces, right? That knight on f6 covers h7, so it also, just keeps White's queen eventually from coming to scores like h5. So instead, Wesley adopts this setup, but the downside of this is the dark squares over there on the king side. Of course, the bishop on b2 would love to be over on h6 or something like this, but queen d2 is still an option, jumping the queen over to the king side. And you can take on d5 at any moment as well. Just keep that in the back of your head.
Yeah, I also feel like the position is very solid, and the tension that surrounds the d5, c4 breakthrough for both sides is really key. And what I like about the way these players, high-level players in chess, how they approach these positions is that they're very good at maneuvering their pieces, not just for the current structure, but always anticipating what could happen if it changes here. I like g6 and bishop f8 for Black because he's putting himself in a spot where, should he eventually take, or now take with the knight and create the isolated pawn on d4, the bishop is in an ideal spot, not just on g7, but also this pawn structure is very solid from the threats you highlighted earlier. Often in an IQP, white has tactics on the b1 h7 diagonal. So look at how black basically remaneuvered his pieces over the last several moves to be in an ideal spot to now kind of put pressure against the d4 pawn. That's just great technical kind of footwork, if you will, by Wesley So, right?
Yeah. And now there's more tension. It's maybe not pawn tension, but there's knight tension. Look at the knight on e5, knight on c6. If black takes on e5, I take with the d pawn. I gain more space. I can control the d6 square, the f6 square. And if you don't take on e5, which you probably shouldn't, the question is, what do you do instead? Right? It's a very essential question. And what move candidates do we have? Well, sometimes, and I'm not suggesting it here because I don't like it, black plays, I was about to say f5.
He goes for it.
I don't like the move. He liked the move. But f5 has the clear drawback of giving you a backward pawn on the e file. So once I move my knight to d2, eventually your pawn e6 is just stuck in its place.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the key reasons why he justifies it is I think he can get, maybe not right away, but normally f5 would be even worse if somehow white was getting access to the g5 square right away. If this bishop were on a different diagonal, if knight g5 was coming, because combine that with things like bishop to c4 and you've got real problems. But I guess the point is, dynamically, black is trying to say, I know this has really big potential drawbacks, but I'm hopeful that white's pieces not being on their normal, most active positions, maybe the bishop's on f1, that can justify it. And I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of speculating here, but I start to look at queen g5, and I don't know why. I guess I have this like bias in me that's clearly coming out in the way I'm talking about it, where I just feel like black is in a good spot here to maybe turn things around quickly.
Yeah, the knight on f4 is particularly nasty because knight takes h3 check. Maybe not now, but at some point is looking pretty good. Actually, knight takes h3 check was a possibility there, but it probably forced a draw, which is why Wesley's playing on.
Because and he wants the d pawn here.
You're actually right. The position in just two quick moves is good for
Yeah, and I think
black.
Wesley just understood, too, that white's normally with the drawback of f5 that would be, like, white's pieces were not in an ideal spot to take advantage of it, and now the d pawn's going to fall.
Yeah, and knight e5, let's show why that's not possible.
Okay.
Because after bishop takes e5, which is a move you typically do not want to play, giving up your fianchetto bishop, rook takes e5, there's queen takes e5, and the queen on d1 is hanging at the end of that variation.
I completed your sandwich there, buddy. I showed it on the board as you talked about it.
I appreciate that because you saw me complete my sandwich before the show.
That's right.
It's only now it's your turn to
Robert threw down. I
did with a veggie sandwich. It was great.
Whoa. All right, well, if you're just getting here, we have roughly 5,000 of you across different platforms, just in English. Remember, you can also watch this in many different languages, including French, Russian, and Portuguese today. And Spanish. But thanks for being here, the 2019 Speed Chess Championship. Now, a stat earlier, Robert, showed that Wesley So has only ever lost the first game in a match once, which was to Magnus Carlsen. He lost the first game, but then he bounced back right away. And if he does well here as black, it looks like he continues to do what we predict is going to be the storyline, that Wesley should have the edge here on the slower time controls.
Yeah, and I think he is going to bounce back in this game. He's simply up a pawn in this end game, and it's one of these questions, Danny, is the one pawn enough? And at first glance, doesn't look like it's closer to level territory than it is to victory territory. Just because white has control of the open c file, which gives counterplay if this rook lands on c7. The extra pawn is this pawn e6. Not that easy to get that pawn rolling. And, now knight c4 looks good.
It's almost a draw for there. Because I think he'll go back and we might get a repeat.
Wait, but knight takes b6? Just give me a free pawn?
Wins. It's a funny line, though, right? Because if you go for that and then suddenly black's rook infiltrates, you might have rook and knight working well on the king side here. But no, white gets king f2 quickly, so I'm not buying it. I feel like Maxime has defended this very well. And look at the clock, by the way.
Yeah, good for Maxime. He was up 2 minutes earlier, but then he spent a long time trying to figure it out. And now a4 at some moment. Isn't white just have an outside pass pawn and an advantage here?
Yeah, if you play a4 and then it becomes sort of a split board, as we say, with counterplay on both sides, the bishop should be the better minor piece sort of exchange there. But the one counterpoint to that is right now Black is clearly the one with threats. Right here comes f4. There's also e5. The rook is infiltrating to the second rank. So these are very double-edged positions for a reason. And the rook and knight will work well in close proximity, everyone. So you want them next to each other operating, whereas the rook and bishop are a long-distance relationship that Robert Hess is envious of. So.
Well, he's just giving up the g3 pawn. Look at Maxime go.
He's just running in. But here comes knight takes g3 next.
But e6 is hanging, b5 is hanging, so bishop takes b5, followed up with rook takes e6. And I guess I'm just a fan. Let me g4 here. So you said knight takes g3 is a threat. So there it is,
yeah,
g4.
Here he goes, g4. I like it. I want two things. I want f4 and the knight to come to g3, but just to show everybody. Oh, wait, actually, it almost does work because the bishop would be hanging. So can I get f4?
I'll have to go king d4, I guess.
Right, and then I'll get knight g. So now I actually got what I wanted, which was to keep this. Because with knight f2, where are you putting the bishop? You're going to take b5, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I thought I was getting more. Okay, no, not happening. Look, he's already transposed into kind of the idea I want, which is f4, but now he's done it better because he's taken away the d4 square for the king.
So, yeah, that's true. So f4 check at some moment could be annoying, not to mention if the bishop leaves the diagonal, rook e2 check at the right moment. So Black is just trying to rely on the fact that there aren't too many pawns remaining. So if that knight might have to sacrifice itself for the b pawn at some moment, perhaps there's potential. And Danny, you know what I'm going to say. Look at the h8 square.
Yep.
Look
Wrong
at the color
of the bishop. Wrong color.
Yep. So if rooks get traded and the knight can sacrifice itself for the b pawn, and the f pawn is traded for those f and e pawns, then it's already a draw because the bishop does not match the h8 square. And, well, Maxime going for the pawns right away.
Rook e2, nice move. You're threatening rook e3.
Such an easy move to forget about because the bishop was on b5 covering the square.
It's a psychological thing, right? We're just not considering moves like this, but their calculation so impressive. And now look at the clock, completely turned around. Wesley is up on time. He can play rook e3 check.
But the question always is rook e3 check, king c4. You helping my king?
I think he wants something with e4 where he can sack and rush the f pawn. I think he's going to try to punch e4 through.
So after king c4, play e4.
Yeah,
you're right. Just get rid of the f3 pawn so that your f pawn can start.
Yeah, here he goes. E4. I think you want to take with the bishop to force the rook ending. Oh, totally wrong. He goes for this. What does Maxime see here? I think that was a very dangerous decision because you can't play rook f5, knight d6 check. So did he just miss that? I mean, no, but now there's knight d2, isn't there?
Knight d2, king d4.
And knight b3. Okay, Black has a draw if he wants it.
Wait, but then I go king d5. So my king
but king d5, you block the f. Oh, no, I can't do both. Okay, here's the line. I thought I could push f and trade at the same time while the bishop is blocked, but I can't. And if I trade, he takes, and the bishop guards f3. So probably Maxime has already calculated all this.
I mean, the essential question I was wondering was who was playing for a win, and
I don't have the answer.
I think now we're going to see the players shake hands soon because you can go corral this f pawn, but you have to give up your b pawn in the process. So I think just you can take on e4 with either b5, catching me off guard.
I think Maxime is saying, I think I'm the one playing for a win now. He's going to take the knight with the king, keep the rook in. I think now Wesley needs to come behind the pawn. This is rook ending lessons here, everyone. You don't want your rook stuck in front of a pawn in prison. So I think Wesley will recognize he's the one playing for a draw and play rook c1, rook b1.
I think he'll play rook c5 here.
And rook c5, dude, that was a sick find. That's
a
great move.
Trade.
Let me show it. Robert, you're so sneaky. All right, let me show you. Robert, right here. Rook c5. If you trade everything, the f pawn runs. What a move.
They agreed on a draw immediately.
Yeah, rook c5. And so it just forces everything off the board, and both sides are going to get queens. Or, as what happened in the game, we're just going to get a rook ending, and it's just an immediate draw. So, wow, what a fancy finish.
Yeah.
Fancy finish. Your nickname in high school, right?
No, but we can pretend like it was.
Okay.
But honestly, that was a very topsy-turvy game because at first we liked Wesley's position with Black. He went up a pawn. Then it seemed like he stumbled immediately after winning said pawn. And then Maxime had a looked like a better position, and somehow the knight and rook combined to be very tricky and not allow him to seize even more of an advantage. So I think both players can be disappointed by splitting that point. But ultimately, we still have a tied match, and we're in another Sicilian Decima Najdorf.
Shout out to Platinum member Solmstead in the Chess TV chat, who says, thanks for the great commentary, Danny and Robert. Watching this with my 5th grade class right now. Hey, class.
Hey,
and
what's up,
they're all going to be
class?
grandmasters someday. So thank you for your support there, Solmstead. And hey, class, thanks for being here watching Chess TV. All right.
Yeah. So bishop c4, typical, right? The pawn went to f5, attacking the bishop. In fact, trapping the bishop, if not for the square.
Yep.
But somehow this looks not very good for black. I mean, I have to admit that when I see these type of positions, especially with the open dark squares on the king side, if that pawn was on g7 rather than g6, I might say, okay, black is probably still a bit worse, but not going to get checkmated at some point soon. Here, I just
the class just went nuts. So shout out to the class. Okay, here's where I'll take black's side now, because before it was a Sveshnikov and I couldn't defend Maxime, but I do play the Najdorf, and I think these positions are much more dynamic than that. And the main point is that black may never get castled, and the tension on f5 combined with the g file becoming open, what black really wants to do in these positions, and that's what b5 does, is to start putting pressure on e4. Okay, a4 is a great move, because the moment you make this a 2-board scenario, meaning, let's say, open lines on both sides of the board, then black has to do something with the king. Now they have to get castled before things like AB, and rook infiltration start happening.
Yeah.
So, but okay, just to point out, if black could just take the queen right now, and instead of that move, if black could have just put it on b7, this would prove my point, where I'm defending b5, hitting e4, guarding a8, and that's the kind of stuff that you're hoping to get in these Najdorfs, and Maxime is a little bit worse here, I do agree. But I don't know, I guess I'm these dark squares are a little overrated. It's not quite a dragon for white.
Yeah, I just think that black is slow. As you said, if the queen was on queen on b7 wouldn't help here, because rook a7 is the move I want to play regardless. And I just feel like white is just first to the punch.
I'm with you. No.
Sorry, go ahead.
I play the Najdorf. I also play the white side of it. So this isn't about us, Robert. This day is not about us.
It's definitely not about us. It's never been about us. It never will be about us. But I am about what white is doing on the queen side over here, because it just seems like black is going to lose at least one pawn in the process. I mean, look at these knights. These are happy knights in the 5th rank. On a5, on b5, jumping into the action. Knight a7 is an idea for white, so you can get a knight to c6. All seems very happy in white's position here.
Agreed. Takes. Now, the big issue here for white is you want to be able to kind of consolidate everything and not lose e4, but I think you can do that. Even like knight c4.
I like knight c4 because we take
love
on
knight
d3,
c4, and he just played it. In fact,
you take on d3, I take with the pawn, and now you're never getting at my pawn.
Yep. And now e5 is a problem. So again, Wesley today saying, I did prepare. Robert was right. I am getting ready for the Grand Chess Tour Rapid and Blitz, which we'll be covering right here on Chess TV if you want to mark your calendars. That starts mañana, I think. No, the next day. I'm just making sure you're still speaking Spanish over there, buddy. That was all. But, yeah, there we go. We got our schedule up. The Tata Steel India Rapid and Blitz, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Wesley So. Need I say more? Follow Chess TV, no matter where you're tuning in from. Get alerts when we go live and see our coverage. Robert and I will not be doing coverage of that. It's a weird time in India for us. But Robert and I will be covering the Grand Chess Tour final from London. And then, of course, the Speed Chess Championship returns on December 4th with Nakamura versus Duda. So, busy times.
Yep. And, well, Wesley So needs a good showing there so he can, compete. So he can finish in the top 4 of the GCT.
No, he still has a chance to qualify for the finals.
He does, yeah.
All right. Well,
Maxime, he's out of events, so he's just hoping that other players around his score group do not do too well in India.
Right. Okay. Rook d4. Maxime is trying to get counterplay. He's trading pawns for pawns. This is one of those ways you try to draw where you just hope that you can somehow win c2 and e4 before white wins all the rest of your pawns. Whoa! An exchange sack.
Give me that piece. He says.
Well, I thought he was going to take d4, but. Whoa.
What? Now he's just like E5. I think
E5 or
is
knight c to D5. Isn't white just winning a piece? Yeah, knight c to
Yep.
D5.
Yep, you're up a piece. So that
didn't
not
go
good.
well.
Not at all. Well, he started down a pawn, and then he got desperate, and now he's down a piece.
Tobias Noss in the Chess TV chat asks, do we think Wesley So will have a boost of confidence in his chess career now that he won a match against Magnus Carlsen? Obviously talking about the World Fisher Random Chess Championship. Robert, that's not our daily question, but it is the daily double from Dan. Think about that and give us an answer in a little bit. Let's tease him. Don't give it yet.
Okay,
Cliffhanger.
'cause I was about to say, what is,
What
you said daily
is
double.
the daily double? But we'll get Robert Hess's thoughts on that soon.
All right, well, let's see how he finishes the game off, because this is one of those positions. Oh, okay. So he decides to give up one of his knights, or both of them, to get the rook
That
here.
was sick. Now he has rook e1, I think. Okay, rook d1 also works, but he could have traded the rooks. He had enough time to do it before the d pawn would run.
But is this the best exchange to be up? Because you're going to have 2-on-2 on the king side. Granted, black's pawns are split over there. Is it the easiest position to win, especially if a pair of rooks get traded?
I think so, because it eliminated the complications. Let's back up to the position where that actually happened, because you're kind of referring this position after rook e2. He could have played something like rook f3, right? But then rook d to d2 comes, and it feels, I don't know, it feels kind of hard for white.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, it's not too clear cut, but at the same time, this position, there are plenty of practical chances for black to hold such an endgame.
Yeah.
Because there's not that much material for white.
Well, why didn't he play my move rook e1? My main point is that things like, okay, takes, and d3 are too slow. I pick up the knight and get behind. If I could get a pair of rooks off the board, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's still what you're saying, which is kind of like, look, black wins the f6 pawn, white wins the d pawn, and it's going to be a hard exchange to prove, right?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think the chances are that great here. Knight e3, for example, right now, I don't even know what you do, because you go rook f2, I immediately have rook e1 check, king h2, knight f1 check, and all of a sudden you're not getting out of my checks.
Okay.
Actually, I already think that black is not much worse.
That's a great point. I guess I'm kind of overestimating, feeling like Wesley was converting. Now, this will be interesting if Maxime yet again holds. If you're one of the nearly 9,000 viewers we have across the world right now, I can tell you that Wesley So probably was the one who should have won last game too, if we were choosing. So what does that do for the confidence, right, for Maxime? He's now held maybe a couple games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the match so far has been about level in terms of how they've played.
Right.
But Maxime is struggling in the openings with black. That's clear. He played the Sveshnikov, got a terrible position. He played the Najdorf in this game, he got a terrible position, and he's very fortunate that he's in this position, which is still obviously better for white and pretty decent winning chances. But he needs to work on something in between these games and figure out what he can play against Wesley. Maybe play e5 in the first move and just play solidly, because it's not working out for him in the Sicilian.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. The one win Wesley had was in a Sveshnikov. So Maxime was black in a Sveshnikov. Maxime won the first game of the match, which was an open Spanish.
Yep.
Here comes king f3. Unless the d pawn is too fast. You got to go to d3. Okay. But that means that you're not really threatening to make any progress here. I think that Maxime is officially held. I mean, the h pawn holds back the g pawn, right?
Yep.
The knight is safely protected on f5 by the king e5, and I think we will have peace.
Maybe there's some kind of Zugzwang opportunities. I need to figure out how to make it work, but perhaps there's a way that white can sort of win in a crucial tempo at the right moment, because knights are notoriously bad as they cannot gain or lose tempos. Oh, wait.
Well, that's a weird move.
Rook takes h4? Is that...
I feel like he's going to lose both H and D, but win G, right? So he's saying, if rook H4, knight G2, rook D4, knight F4 check, we might have some sort of perpetual.
Right.
So
can I throw in rook E4 check?
Rook E4 check first.
But still, king F5. I mean, you're getting closer to this H pawn. I'm not sure how long it will be able to stay on the board.
Wesley taking his time here. I think he feels confident he should be able to win, but this is getting a little scary. Knights are tricky in these situations. You don't want to suffer to a fork.
There you go. So he went rook E4 check. But
Yeah.
I think you're right, though. King F5 and just followed up with bringing the knight back. And
Yep.
Black's chances should be pretty decent to hold here.
We've had several subscribers and supporters here today. Thank you so much for your donations and your love. We appreciate it. You make these events possible. All right. I think it should still be a draw here.
I
I
don't
think
know.
F5.
F5.
Yeah,
Yeah, F5. You're right. Cutting the rook off
And
is
then
very
you're
important
threatening
here.
knight G2, and that should be it.
Yep.
Okay.
And as long as you don't play King H5 first, which would not be ideal.
LOL.
And maybe still holds in some lines.
Sometimes I feel like when you point out the most obvious blunders, you're giving advice directly to me.
Well, here it works. Just go knight G. Wait,
Knight
knight
G6 is good
G2?
enough.
No, knight G6, King E3. He's trying to trick him.
Oh, that would be sick. Let's show the Zugzwang analysis board. Knight G6, King E3, Knight H4, King F4, Zugzwang. Black has to move away and lose the knight.
And that's why he played like this, and he brought the king in first.
Okay.
So now he can just blockade the pawn.
Yeah,
probably.
Knight H5 next, and then you'll get your counterplay with the F pawn. Okay,
Yep.
so you're just going to tickle this one out here?
So the king is coming, but the knight comes to H5 exactly, and then you can push the F pawn down the board to help you hold the
Yeah.
balance.
Don't play King E4, Dan.
Note to self.
Note to self.
Don't get
All
fooled.
right. Draw. Is Wesley going to play it out? I mean, I guess he probably should. And again, if you are nervous, if you're tired, this is Wesley's opportunity. We see him. Okay, he takes the draw, a little bit frustrated again. And I think that was some honest kind of dejection there, because he did. I know you were saying it's been about level, but the last two games, if we had to summarize, Wesley's been the one pushing, right? So it starts to feel a little bit like you're, we don't like those storylines in matches like this, because if the victories are escaping you, you can lose matches by not converting.
Yep. And, that definitely hurt Dingley Run yesterday, right? Of course, the final result was clearly heavily in Jan Nepomniachtchi's favor, but Dingley Run had several advantages that he didn't convert on, and
Yep.
that's why the match seemed to get out of hand in the early going.
Question there from Prof Gamer. When is the Hikaru Duda match? It is December 4th. Thank you for asking that. Mark your calendars.
That'll be a fun one as well, because obviously Hikaru being the favorite, but Jan-Krzysztof Duda playing super elite level chess these days in classical. He is nearly 2760. His Speed Chess Championship history has been one marked by great upset victories in his favor.
And
So-
comebacks. They call him the comeback kid. I think I called
They
him
do.
that and then say they, so that it sounds more legitimate. But, yeah,
You also called him Rick Astley Jr. and
I did.
try to rickroll me in the
Yep.
process.
that's right. All right, let's talk about this exchange here, because this is educational, I think, for the viewers to break down. How can White justify a departure of a Fianchetto bishop, denying the protection of the light squares? Give us the Grandmaster 1-2 punch here. Why is bishop takes c6 a line?
I don't really like the line, but
Okay.
why it is a line is because what Black gains out of White giving up this Fianchetto bishop is control of the light squares.
Right.
White has yet to castle kingside, which means that squares like h3, g2 are not as vulnerable just yet.
Right.
And the long-term potential, that's what White is counting on, against these double pawns. Now, it's not easy to pile up pressure on those pawns, which is why I don't particularly love it, but you can undouble Black's pawns if you gain important space in the process. You see this often in openings like the Rossalimo. If you can play, say, a3, b4 at the right moment, say, okay, I'll undouble your c pawns, but you lack space and your two bishops are not working in open space. They just happen to be on the board. Again,
It's a good point, because we've got kind of a closed center. So while normally, yes, you look at this bishop, you look at these light squares, and it spells problems, but where's the beef, right? So you put the bishop on h3, but okay, Maxime's going to move the rook, and then how are you really following up on these weak squares, right? But okay, I mean, but I'm with you, because I'm going to show on the analysis board why I agree that this line is kind of weird, because even though we're justifying the departure of the bishop, normally it's done like if these pawns are isolated, right? Like remove the d pawn and look at how horrible those pawns are. They're weak, they're doubled, they're isolated, it's bad. But in a situation like this, and even in the live position, while the pawns are doubled now, they're not really that weak, right? So the fact that Black has been given the bishop pair long term and the weak light squares, I don't know. I'm with you as well. I asked you to kind of explain it, but I don't know. To me, this is definitely a double-edged game for sure, and I don't think it's the worst version Black could have in this kind of exchange.
Yeah, especially because there are no weak pawns to attack. So Black says, I have the 2 bishops. I can start breaking open the position with an eventual f5 move that surely will be played. And there it is.
Here it comes.
Now, if you play b takes c5, you just help Black out by undoubling the pawns with d takes c5 in return. The rook on b8 is perfectly situated there.
Yep.
Looks good. Looks really good for Black.
Yeah, I'm liking it more and more. And at some point, this tension is going to break in the closed position, and these pieces will come to life. Right on cue there, a position completely locked by pawns is what we would define as a closed setup. Usually you define a closed position by whether the center itself is open or closed. But if the position stays closed, the bishop pair won't be that big of a deal. But if it opens up, the slight square bishop and the bishop pair in general will be an advantage for Black.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, but this position isn't closed like the one we saw in the diagram because there are still pawn tension. Pawn breaks are possible here. It's not a totally locked position as we saw in said diagram.
We would call that a semi-closed position, right? Karpov special.
Yeah. And here we got the baseball field right in the center, right? From
there
D6,
you go. Yeah, the diamond.
C5, D4, E5.
Yeah. And what Robert's adding as far as the context of that comment about it's a closed position right now, but it's considered semi-closed because there's enough tension points where files and diagonals can become open that it's not something you would consider deadlocked totally. But that's really where the storyline of the position is all about. How do we break this, right? Black would love for White to make some move like captures and start to open up light squares. And here Black decides to capture. Maybe he'll take twice. Indeed he does, giving up A for B, but trying to maybe use the B file in the process.
Yep.
And that's what he does.
Black is first to the activity because if this E1 rook was already on A1, you could play rook A7.
Yep.
I might have a different tune here. But if you ever play rook A1, then there's rook B2. He just hung his queen.
What is he doing? Wait.
Oh, is rook E2 at the end?
Wow. I look at the camera because normally I see some emotion, but Maxime just, calm as a kitten over there.
He knew his position was bad, which is why he went for this.
Yeah, but I really like this decision. Look how difficult it is now for Black. Oh, wait, D3 falls. Never mind. Nah, horrible. Bad queen sack, Maxime.
No, but you're not totally wrong because he can possibly set up a blockade here. It doesn't seem likely, but there is outside potential of setting up a blockade, in which case the decision
but C4
can be justified.
C4 is falling, and the D.
We're doing a role reversal here. Usually, you're the one who sticks up for
the queen sack.
Bad sacrifices. Now I'm the one who's trying. But
look what I've done to you. Look what I've done to you.
You've corrupted me.
I've corrupted. No, this is a bad. This was your instincts were right first. It was done out of desperation. Let's back up and really kind of show it because the truth is, back in this position, I think, as you said, you would normally like White if White was already on the A file, but he wasn't, and so. Black was the one ahead of the game. He didn't want to settle on a passive move rook a2, everybody, to guard rook b2. So instead, he kind of justifies in his brain a bad queen sack, something we hope he does tomorrow versus me, that being Maxime. But the fact that the D pawn falls in exchange for you getting enough material is just, I didn't see that when I first went for it. If something like this happens, just to show, this is why I liked it for a brief second, because now you've got a rook, a knight, and a pawn, and dominance on the blockade here. I would love White, but the fact that the D pawn falls is kind of a catalyst, and that is going to be, Wesley's going to go on to win this one and take the lead.
And Maxime is just kind of wasting time right now, not in a unsportsmanlike way, but he's trying to calm himself. We know Maxime is a player who can go on tilt. We've seen it happen.
Yep.
And I think it's very important for Maxime to keep his nerves in check to make sure that he's feeling like, okay, every game is a fresh one. Every move is an opportunity for me to improve on what I've been doing.
Yep.
So just take a breath, take a breather.
Yep.
And so didn't we just see this?
What was the advice we were given? Who said it?
Do you see how quickly they just played this? I mean,
they played the same way. Yeah, I guess we'll focus on that. But I think there's something to be said for making sure your last moment, your last memory of a game is not like the most negative emotional one. Like, take a breath, calm yourself, try to figure out why you blundered, maybe what the positive takeaway is, and then resign and move on, right? I think there is something to be said for that, Robert, especially in matches like this where you don't have a rest day to do it. You got to do it now in the middle of the show, right? And I think that's kind of what you were touching on, right?
Yeah. And he changed this opening by taking on f5 first, unlike in the last game when he allowed that tension to still
Let's
exist.
back up and show it real quick because I was highlighting that psychological point. But yeah, right here is where the difference maker was, everyone. Instead of bishop c4, which is what we just saw in game 5, if you're keeping track closely, Maxime took on f5. And by the way, I like this better because to me, this is the version I was trying to explain when I was justifying black's position, is that you don't want to castle in a lot of ways. You want to use the g file. What you don't want is what happened in that last game. You don't want the b5 move to be a move you can't take back, and white makes it a two-line scenario where both sides become open. So I think this is a better version for Maxime than he had earlier.
I agree. And right now, after queen d5, the c2 pawn can be captured. And so what is Wesley thinking by giving up this pawn? Maybe he just wants to play rook c1 after it, which is why Maxime keeps the position closed. But a very interesting decision right there that I think needs further analysis. That, well, I would love to ask them.
I like the decision not to take it. This is what white wants in these If you want a two-line board, right? You want open. Why can't I figure out the right way to say that? What is the right way to say you want open lines on both sides of the board? There you go. Okay. Wow, that was hard.
You did it.
You want open lines on both sides of the board. Queen takes b7's an issue. So this is what you want to avoid in any Najdorf where your king has to be in the center, everybody. You can get away with this as long as it's not a two open line scenario. So that's exactly what Wesley is trying to do, is open up lines on both sides of the board.
Yep.
I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire for this match. I can't speak today, buddy.
It's okay. I'll forgive you eventually. So here, the tension on d6, he just captures it, and bishop f4. So look at that rook on g8. You were talking about this earlier. Is the king going to sit on d7, Danny?
I love it.
I mean, you might have to. You might not really have many choices here. And the great news of this bishop on f4 is it covers the f-file and covers the c1 square, because rook a to c1 would be a very good move in most positions, but you can't do it without just giving me a free rook.
Yep. And also the time. The time is suggestive to me that Maxime is back in his comfort zone. This is the kind of Najdorf he needs to get today. These positions are ones that, frankly, he has more experience than any of his peers, any of the best players in the world. And it's not. I'm not saying the position is objectively good for. I mean, it's a very unclear position. But it's a position that he knows well and that he can play. And again, that king on d7. This is a Najdorf. This is like a walk in the park for a Najdorf player. No big deal.
Yep. And he can play queen e6 if he needs to kick this queen out of the d5 square.
Yep.
And it's very difficult for white to kick this bishop off of f4. And he does it by playing bishop e3, but now queen e6 forces the queens off the board, it seems, because either you lose the d6 pawn right away, or you trade queens and then take on f4, and then I take on d6.
And probably objectively we're headed for a draw, but still I would say that's a good result given how badly black's games have been for Maxime today, right? He's really hasn't figured out his openings until this one.
Yeah, no, this was by far his best game with the black pieces. It felt double-edged. Both sides actually had chances, whereas in the other games, he was just kind of getting positionally steamrolled. It seemed like everything was going in Wesley's favor. Here, only black can be better in this endgame, I think, because if you trade the rooks, you have this e-pawn, which is already directly a pass pawn, and that can be quite a nuisance, especially if your king gets cut off. So, like, if you play king e5 maybe, and then king d4, what if I just get my king in? Okay, he starts with e5, which also makes sense. But I'm thinking if that black king starts venturing into enemy territory, not only is it helping the pass pawn, but it can also go over to the queen side to attack these two white pawns over there as well.
No, it's fantastic. And, the passed pawn will be the difference maker if somehow Maxime can get an edge. Something tells me best play, again, rook ending, newsflash, best play might be leading to a draw. But if rook e7 comes here, he goes rook c7, which has ideas of check, and then start gobbling. But rook e7, just getting the rook behind the pawn is always something to keep an eye on in these rook endings.
And the essential question right now is if king g2, rook c2, check, rook f2 is possible, and I think it is, in which case white will be better in that king and pawn game. There's a difference between the rook end game and the pawn end game. The reason why I'm saying the pawn end game would be so good for white is you have the outside pawns. In this case, the h and g pawns. But he went king f3 first. This is just now it's getting very dicey.
Because what he wants is g5, and the king runs this way to help, I think.
He wants to snag the h7 pawn.
He can still do it. He can take and then play g5. The checks, whatever happened first, are kind of just based on their calculation that they can do that Robert and I can't right now because they're engaged. But you really just want to be, okay, now he didn't get it in time. The whole point of having G5, everybody, was so you could meet this check with king to G4. Now he has to go back to G2 if he wants to hold H3.
But instead he's just going to make a draw.
Okay, so we're gonna just Maxime. Okay, so now Maxime has the taste in his mouth for the first time today of letting one go that he feels like he could have won, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to speak in such extreme terms. I feel like one is a little strong, but I think he is disappointed of like, I could have played and made my opponent's life more difficult and could have pressed him more. And in that case, yes, maybe if he pressed, he could have won the game, but I don't think objectively there was anything overwhelmingly advantageous for him.
Okay, yeah, fair. But it was definitely his best night or best game as black of the day, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And now we see a very quick end game here, which, okay, well, with the white pieces, you'd hope to have a slight edge. Your bishop on G2, always better than the opponent bishop on the light squares because, well, you're going to need to protect your C6 pawn. The bishop on G2 covers the scope of the diagonal. You might play bishop E6, actually, to put your bishop on D5 or knight on D5 as a way to close that diagonal. But because Maxime's moving so quickly, I imagine he's very familiar with his position.
We have 11,000 of you watching in English right now across multiple platforms and many more international. I want to take this moment just to remind everybody that right after the SCC today is Femme Batal, another team chess battle. We haven't done one of those in a while. The last time team chess happened, Robert Hess and I were on the losing side versus the Chess Bras. We don't want to talk about it. But we have a Femme Batal that is Europe versus North America going down right after this. So see those ladies, Maria Emelianova, Anna Rudolph, Alexandra Botez, and Jennifer Shahade playing team chess right after this. Should be exciting. So,
yeah, I don't even know
who you got in that match, by the way. They don't watch our shows, so you can be totally honest.
I was about to say I'm not even sure who the favorite is.
Yeah, I think it's a very balanced match. I think I'm leaning Team Europe.
Okay. You're going to say why, or you're just going to let me know that you're leading
I feel like
Europe?
Anna is potentially the most active. Like, of the four players, I feel like she might be the strongest right now. Jen is right there with her. So I think sometimes if you're like looking at the matchup, I think Anna might be the strongest overall player right now of the four, and that kind of makes me lean their way.
Okay. I think that Alexandra can make or break it in the sense, I mean, that she plays, sometimes she does the Botez gambit, blunders her queen, but most of the time she's playing very well and she has very active ideas, which, and when I say that, you see some of these even elite players where in any given game, you're like, they're going to win or lose, but you're not expecting them to be solid. Someone like Mamajaro, we often expect that of him. So I think that I would probably also lean towards Team Europe slightly because of they're a bit more active, it feels like, but I don't know. Something about Team America.
I agree. And, you know, Alexander Botez and Eric Rosen teamed up at the Twitch Rivals event we had, the Komodo Boss Rush, and they way outperformed their objective strength in major part because of their chemistry. And I think Alexandra is a fantastic teammate. She's very good with just knowing the right way to find good chemistry, and I think that's a huge point in their favor. So good point. It's going to be a toss-up. So.
Well, you know it's not going to be a toss-up. This game right here. This
looks fantastic for Wesley, and he might be about to take a 2-game lead.
Yeah, I mean, what just happened?
Here comes the B file, and I'm happy to see you.
This was the worst way possible for white to regain the pawn. You have these doubled E-pawns and split queenside pawns, and black's rook is already kind of in your face on the second rank. So there's rook D2. Okay, I thought he was going to rook D2 and double on the...
I think he maybe still should, but... he's kind of in control anyway. You can play rook 8 to b7. He plays it before I can highlight it. And again, white's rooks are much more stuck than black's.
Well, what about rook d1 here?
Rook d1, I have rook c2, I think.
Then I'll go rook a4. It looks very awkward, but at the very least, I'm stopping you from infiltrating.
To the back cave we go. Let's analyze. Rook d1, he goes for it. Rook c2, rook a4. At some point, okay, we're getting this exact line. That's why we're in the back cave. So maybe I go for rook b to b2 and sacrifice a7. But probably not, right? Because okay, I love this move e4 because I was going to say one of the big problems with this line, Robert, is if even if you take on e2, I can kind of get out and run into the light square. So this move e4 does have my threat in mind. What you're doing is you're trapping the king here, so that now if you go for this second rank, it might come with a mating net. The king can't get out.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And that's why he played g4, right? To kind of
play c5 then. I want to take your e4 pawn away, and after that, my king can go to f3. So I think c5 here is a pretty good.
I think c5 is key, because if you don't, you're going to see rook b to b2, and because the king is trapped. But all right, you're right. He finds c5, and looks like Maxime might be escaping by the right now many hairs on his chinny chin chin.
Yeah, he's copying me. No Shave November.
Yep.
We have a lot of similarities. Just he's a much better chess player. And I see Jan Nepomniachtchi in the chat saying it's a coin toss. I think, though I'd say MVL is stronger in bullet. So that's Jan Nepomniachtchi's take on.
Yeah, and that's been kind of my take too. But I think right now, obviously, Wesley up a game for a reason, and this is. I got a feeling about today. I know we knew this was going to be a good match, but something tells me, I don't know. You feeling overtime? What do you got?
Free chess. I'm here for it.
Free chess.
So
Free chess, which is what we get out of. It's what we get out of you, right? You've been doing these for free for years.
Gosh, I know. Somebody called the IRS. Yeah. So anyway, f5 played.
Yeah.
Is he going to? I was wondering if he was going to take it and just try to play his second rook to the fourth rank and try to take this g pawn, but instead he plays f4, which to me, I feel like you're not really threatening much, because if you take on e3, you are. F takes e3 is pretty.
Yeah,
good.
F takes rook takes, you win the rook.
Yeah.
With rook
so
f4 check.
We should show that.
Yeah, let's show it. F takes e3. Okay, we'll just make a random move. If F takes e3, rook takes e3, this is the threat. And Bob's your uncle. Game over. So, okay, so rook d4 stops that. But I do think black is still in the driver's seat. Now he can take d4. He's won a pawn. He has h6 here.
h6 will probably take on a5, and then at least restore material equality for the time being.
No, you're right. That means he has to calculate. Oh, rook d5. You know what he was doing? He was double checking the king and pawn ending. Classic Wesley.
Yep, but Wesley's up a pawn here, so
yeah,
he
he's
can
up a pawn.
afford.
Now you can give up h7 and try to run, I think. No, he wants to go to g7? Here. Really? Because otherwise it's a draw. Oh, wow.
He plays on. Well, he has the c-pawn, and white's king is sort of cut, and black's king can help the c-pawn push. So don't be surprised if he just gives up the h6 pawn, plays c5 here, says, go for that h-pawn, have at it, and I'm going to start pushing my c-pawn. The downside is white can go h4. I thought h4 instead of rook e6 check. Okay, maybe he'll go h4
He's going to do it anyway, yeah.
Wait, but c3 now?
Whoa, is he too fast?
I think he's too fast.
Wesley's got that look like, hey, dude. I think you miscalculated that. Like, he almost just looked across the camera. By the way, the players can see each other on camera if they choose to do so, because it's in a shared and secured Zoom call. I know some of the players, we've talked with them, like keeping the camera up because they can't see their opponent's reaction. Wow. Maxime may have just...
Yep.
So let's analyze. Let's back up real quick, because I think you pointed out maybe there was a better move order. Instead of taking h6, he needed to play h4 right away, but still c4.
Yes. Well, but if your pawn, I'm trying to think. So if you play h4 right away, does he gain a tempo there, or is still c4?
I think still c4, because I can even take back on g5, and if rook e5, king b4 takes, I still have c3, still very fast.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
So maybe this idea that Wesley kind of peeked over at Maxime, he was kind of like, I think I'm winning here. Notice the bridge idea, everybody. The point is rook c8 check is blocked by rook c7, and this pawn is still too fast. Baby girl on c1.
Perfectly placed rook, because it helps you stop a rook check from behind the pawn, and also when the rook tries to get on the side of the pawn, you have rook d1.
Yep.
So either you're going rook to c7 or to d1.
Yep. I was just highlighting that. The third reason the rook is perfectly placed, it also was stopping any white king run over, just to show on the analysis board. So Robert highlighted the rook was literally perfect, helping with the kind of Lucina bridge idea where you block checks, ready to help the pawn advance if it needs to come to d1, and also preventing a king rush this whole time to help. So just fantastic. And those are the kind of victories, when you talk of Wesley So, that you think he's going to get. It's technical, super precise, and he catches people making blunders in those types of variations like that. That little peek over he had at Maxime, that was classic So. That was a classic Wesley look.
A little peekaboo.
Like, hey, I think I calculated one move deeper in that line than you, buddy. I think I got you.
Well, he definitely has been getting Maxime the early going here. And Maxime, once again, we have a different setup for him in this game because he has put his bishop on g7, fianchettoed it. It's from a Najdorf, but it's looking dragonish. Well, Danny, what do you make of this? You're a Sicilian player. Do you like this setup for Black?
It's a Dragadorf, first of all, right? Not to be confused with Gandalf or any other Elven. I don't know. It's a Dragadorf. Ganondorf. But okay, so the Dragadorf, jokes aside, is we'll analyze it real quick. Is this combination of dragon development along with the move a6, right? So you start with Najdorf, you switch to the dragon, which is defined by this fianchettoed bishop on the dark squares in a Sicilian. What do I think about it, Robert? Honest truth, I think it sucks. I mean, I don't think these lines are very good for Black, and I think
I played the Dragendorf, Danny. I drew Gadakomsky with it many moons ago.
You know what? You're really good. Okay.
What are you trying to say about Maxime, huh?
No. Okay, come on. No, these guys are great, but I mean, objectively, the Dragadorf, there's a reason why it's featured as, let's say, surprise weapons. You're not making a regular habit of the Dragadorf in your repertoire, Robert, despite your draw versus Komsky. And
I need to tell you something. Can I tell you something?
What?
Sam Shanklin once told me that he thought the Dragendorf was a pretty good opening.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if Shanklin says it, it must be true.
That's what I was thinking. When he told me that, I was like, well, in Shanklin's prep, I trust.
It's actually, I mean, jokes aside, Sam is one of the best prepared players. Sam is more prepared than his rating even suggests. And that's saying something because he's a 27, 20-plus player. But Sam is, okay, all right, maybe I'll give it another look-see, huh?
Honestly, I don't really like it either. But, you know, just noting that Sam said that to me, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that somebody's complimenting the Dragendorf. And it's not me being facetious. So
yeah, it's interesting. Well, okay. We ended up kind of on a practical debate about it. I'm sure for most of the viewers, they're like, what is this open? What is even the debate about the opening? The basic point is it's a very sharp opening. And what that means is, you know, if you're not well prepared theoretically, you can get shoved around and find yourself regretting your opening choice. That's the kind of opening it is, and very dangerous. But if you get positions like this, let's highlight the pros of what Black has established, right? You've got pressure on the c-file, a la every Sicilian's dream. The bishop on the long diagonal with rook's pressure on the dark squares of the queen side is often what you want in every dragon, whether the king is castled over here or not. So if we're evaluating, you know, what happened in this particular Dragadorf, the one thing I'm watching out for is this knight. Don't get it trapped on e5. But assuming Maxime figures this out, you know, overall, this is the kind of position where Black has achieved a very double-edged game. He can play for a win. Now, all that said, guess who I still think is a little better here? White. And the main reason is that the bishop pair, the pawn on d5, this is what we call a Marco hop structure, the transition of a knight trade that happened on this move 14, opens up the e-file long term, and what that means is eventually rook e1 comes, e7 is a backward pawn in these positions. Black is sort of hoping for all these tactics. Like, here's the problem I have with Black's position. You ready, Robert?
Yep.
Tell me how to improve any of these pieces. They're on their best squares right now, and White hasn't even is not close to optimal. Like, you make a trade, you put the rook on e1, I can play f4, eventually kick your knight, e7's weak. I feel like White's position has much more to improve.
Knight d7, knight f6, knight takes d5 will be my next three moves.
Okay, first of all, I'm not going to give you three moves, Robert.
You asked me how to improve the position, I gave you an answer, now you're upset about it.
Okay, knight at d7, I'll play g5 first. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to play h4. I'm going to get my e-file. I'm going to bind you, a la dragon style.
And I'll take your knight on d4 and take your pawn on h3, and then you're going to be upset about it.
Okay, first of all, you may have just lost the exchange to knight e2. Oh, you have knight f3 check, you lucky dog. I love how we argue like it's our position.
Did I?
Okay, Wesley has to find something here. I'll give it, you know, again, the critical point is that Black has the pieces kind of optimally placed, close to it anyway. And if he can start cashing in, then that's the key. But my point was, if you gave White lots of time, White still had a lot more ways to positionally improve than Black did. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it looks like Black is actually getting the tension he needs now. So we'll find out. Thank God it's not my game.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. But your knight e2 move is probably the best. But I agree with you about knight f3 check being the response.
It still wins the exchange.
Exactly. But I think it's not the clearest exchange, and that's what
By the way, Wesley normally does that kind of lean back and look up, when he's skeptical of his opponent's tactics.
You know the Wesley faces
I just
now?
watched him for 10 days in Oslo, Norway, and like it's just like a body language thing you pick up, like Hikaru Nakamura's many catalogs of faces.
Yep.
It's kind of like he's not, but he just feels like there's something off. And normally, like when Magnus went full tilt in the last game with pushing the A pawn, right before he cashed in and took on B2 with the bishop, the game I'm talking about. He kind of did the same thing. I think it's a reminder he does to tell himself to kind of stay calm. I think this is good for me. And now by the way, he goes for 92. We'll see if he can convert.
Yeah, I think you predict this very well. You're reading the body language well. And knight F3 check. King to either C or D1. Probably C1.
I think you got to go to C1 because otherwise rook D5 is check.
And after king C1, rook takes D5, knight takes C3, bishop takes C3. We're in a bit of a messy position because
and it's a typical dragon. Go ahead.
Yeah, black has one pawn and a knight for a rook.
Yep.
And white's pawn A5 is a bit overextended.
Yep.
The pawn H3 might become vulnerable, but you're absolutely correct. It is a traditional dragon sort of approach. Exchange down, but with massive amount of counterplay. What's he thinking about here, by the way?
Well, he's probably confirming those kind of variations. Maxime is...
He might be thinking of rook takes E3, actually. Just decide which minor piece he wants.
But if you take E3 instead, now I take with the F pawn to stop knight F3 check. You're picking up D5. I move my king. I'm not sure where. You don't get the line you talked about with the bishop on C3. So ultimately he goes for that line, and I think it's because of the final position we're seeing everyone. Robert's idea of the bishop on C3 is kind of key because it hits A5. Black has to keep the pressure on in these dragon exchange stacks. White's considering whether I can play bishop B6 or whether I give up the A pawn, which is, I think, the right practical choice. Because if you can force pieces off the board, the rook's chances of flexing on the orthogonal angles.
I didn't even know what you were trying to say, but that is
ORTHOGONAL is a word I recently added to my vocabulary. Orthogonal angles.
Is one of your kids doing geometry in school?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So the rook's chances of flexing, post-Malone style, we won't get into whatever pre-Malone was or current Malone, but post-Malone flex would be the rook on open lines, files. Those are the orthogonal angles the rook wants to dominate.
Oh man, if I hear one more math word from you, I'm quitting for the day. I didn't sign up for a little geometry lesson here.
Hey, you're welcome.
I'll appreciate it later when it.
Okay, but here come the angles. They're opening up.
Well, here comes the bishop sitting on D6, like a nice blockading piece, and I like the 2 extra pawns that black has. Yep. I'm taking black here.
Okay.
I think you like the material though.
I don't know. I mean, by the way, I've been sort of touting White's storyline, White's perspective in this game, and for good reason. I think that with correct prep and approach, White is better. But I've probably played these positions more as black if we're actually talking about personal experience. So, I think 2 pawns for the exchange is something. But what ends up happening, the reason I applauded the idea of giving up that second pawn for the open lines is often you should prefer the right opening lines for your pieces over small amounts of material. And I don't know. I feel like White's not going to lose this game. Okay, maybe black holds, but I don't think White is going to be worse.
I agree. I think that White should be the only one with serious winning chances unless something goes very wrong. You can put your rook on D3 to protect the B3 pawn. You can just sit on the position, and there's no way for black to team up and make progress on the pieces. Now, F6, I guess he's trying to go king F7 and then maybe even king E6, but that feels... Yeah. I just look at the light squares and the fact that you have a dark square bishop.
I gave you that look. I gave you the so look. I was like...
You're like, please don't infiltrate. Don't do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this...
Here comes H4. Again, more orthogonal angles opening up.
But what if I take on H4, actually? Like, if I just take on H4...
If take H4, rook H1, bishop G3, I have bishop F4 in the end.
Bishop F4, I see the pawn on G5. I think you can't put a bishop on F4, but of course my pawn's on H4 now. But
now he'll trade, and he'll use the H file to get in on the action.
Yeah, just there it goes. Bishop D4. So he's threatening bishop takes F6.
Oh, that was a nice trick. Let me show it real quick. Analysis board we go. Bishop d4 was threatening things like bishop takes f6 and lights out. And so that forces king f7. Oh, whoa! Wait, they just agreed to a draw?
Yep. Surprising you and me and everybody
Shocker.
watching.
I mean, let's show the final position because Wesley just says, you know what, I kind of, I don't have enough. I'm shocked. I feel like only white can push on with the rook. Okay, from a practical perspective, what does that speak to you?
I think just Wesley's very practical, and he realized his g4 pawn was a bit weak, and so he decided, let me just make a draw. Wait, what is this opening, by the way? What are we looking at right now? I'm sorry. What is this? Do you have any idea? This looks terrible for white. Are you gonna say something, or are you just gonna?
I'm speechless right now. It's a weird opening for sure, and we already saw him lose on the white side of this particular English earlier. Not exactly like this, but we saw him lose on the white side of one with the bad queen sack game.
Yeah, we talked about how with the two bishops and bad pawn structure, you want open space. There's plenty of open space in this game. And I mean, it's so easy for black to play. Play bishop d6, castle kingside, use your light square bishop because white doesn't have one. This is honestly one of the worst openings I've seen in a while. We're on move 10. And
I love when you tell us how you really feel.
I mean, I'm sort of angry, honestly.
Yeah, this is weird because we got a light square bishop and you don't have one.
This is very bizarre.
You said it earlier, and I'll back you up because you were the first one to call it, that one of the things we know Maxime has is tilt potential. We've seen it happen before. And that was one thing I was worried when I saw the Dragadorf played, despite the fact that ultimately that ended in a draw and it was okay for him. But I was worried in the choice of openings because I think if that continues to be repeated, the Dragadorf should be played once and then forgotten.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so we'll see where this goes. Obviously, if he can hold on here, that's another story. But if we're just looking at this objectively, he's down 2 points, everyone. Maybe, it's okay to play it once. I'm not going to call it a questionable opening. It was an interesting game. But now that he's worse as white again and these light squares are a problem, I'm going to put my bishop on it.
Yeah, you can put your bishop on f3 and ask white what he's going to do about it because either my bishop sits planted on a great square, a menacing square, or you allow my bishop to retreat to d5. And okay, opposite colored bishops only helps black because you talk about this a lot. When you have opposite colored bishops, you want to have firm control of that color complex. And if you take it on d6, you're never going to be able to fend off my bishop on the light squares. Right now, I mean, can't black just go for an attack? f4 is coming, queen d7 to h3. f4 might just be resignable territory for white.
Yeah, this looks terrible. I mean, what did he do?
He did everything wrong.
What did you do? Sorry, I just wanted to say it like that.
It's okay. I forgive you.
Here comes the queen to h3, so he had to play knight d2, but just bishop d5.
Bishop,
keep the bishop here, because you go queen h3 and f3 is still coming. The light squares are not solved just because you get to kick the bishop out.
And after queen h3, if you go king h1, I can take on g3, put my rook on f2 because your knight's pinned. I mean, this is just...
Oh, man.
You don't see a player of Maxime Vachier-Lagrave's caliber lose this kind of miniature pretty much ever. This is terrible.
Surprising. And again, the 3-game deficit now is what we, you kind of get worried about. That's what I was predicting with the Dragon. That was weird. That was weird. Let's show the analysis board again just real quick so we can highlight why that was so weird. Again, we're rolling through this opening, and already with e4 being played on move 4 caught Robert's attention, but then it was the departure of the light square bishop on c6 that had Mr. Hess saying, hey, you can't spell chess without Hess, and I don't like it. Remember how you said that?
Not liking it. Understatement of the century.
He just crushes him on the... I mean, this position was resignable for moves, and ultimately just got crushed on the light squares. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I'm exasperated. And
well, he's down 3 games. I mean, I think if this match stays close, the bullet portion is really where he makes his move anyway. But right now, you got to kind of pull yourself together.
as you said, if this match stays close, and look at this position for Black right now. I mean, is this the type of chess you want to be playing?
I mean, for me, yes. For Maxime, no. It's the kind of chess I want him playing against me tomorrow. Let's remind everybody of what's on tap. Okay, I would love to say that was brought to you by someone, but it's not. What is on the agenda for mañana? It's the first ever Adopt a Danny show. Am I looking at the disappointed face of my new father, who will win 10 games against me in multiple time controls, or is he looking at the face of a baby with more potential than he can handle, so he tries to get rid of me? That this is going down a road I got to pull myself back out of. But anyway, Robert, I know you'll be tuning in. Tomorrow is the big dance. Me and Maxime, we're throwing down in a battle, and I will not be adopted.
What time is your battle tomorrow?
It's at 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for asking that. And again, the technical terms will be announced. It's actually already in the article, but the rules are you have to win 10 games in a row in a time control in order to adopt someone. He will be racing against the clock. He will have a certain amount of time to try and adopt me before time runs out. But no segment can be ended on time. So if there is an adoption streak that is still active, I have to defend it.
So what if that streak is one game?
I still have to defend it.
Okay, so in other words, you can't end the segment on a loss. You need to at least draw a game.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if Maxime plays tomorrow like he's playing right now, I mean, how many tempi is Black down?
Too many is the answer. Shout out to the donation there. We love it. Appreciate you. Queen D7, Rook D1 is going to be another tempi.
I mean, Knight B5 to C7, that also looks pretty good.
Yeah, he goes Rook D1. My only question was whether Bishop G4 worked, but no, it doesn't. Now,
okay, now play Knight B5.
Knight B5
you can't take my
looks
knight.
Friggin' nasty. Oh,
this is 12 moves into a game.
What is Maxime doing right now? Oh my gosh.
He needs to chill.
He needs to chill. Let's rinse and repeat, back this thing up, replay style, and show you why the resignation happens. The threat here, everyone, is Knight to C7 check. So you make a move, I play Knight C7, and you're losing your queen because you're mated otherwise. This is like stuff you see in Puzzle Rush, but not in real Grandmaster games. If you take here, White just takes on B5 with check, and the same problem occurs. Your king is trapped on the D file, and you're losing the house on D7. There's no moves. There's no way to deal with this, so he resigns. Robert.
Yeah. It honestly looks like bullet games I play when I lose because I'm playing terrible openings. And, I mean, Maxime is so much stronger than this. It's actually a little upsetting for me to see, but I see he's eating. He's taking a bite. Hopefully he takes a breath, because what he needs to do is just get one good game under his belt. He needs to stop just playing risky openings for no other reason than you can't play wishful chess. You can't say, I need to win the game. I want to win the game, so I'm magically going to win the game. No, you just need to play your best moves, because, of course, Maxime is capable of beating Wesley in a couple straight games. That said, I think Wesley, of all of the top players, is great at keeping his composure. And that sometimes, I think, hurts him a little bit. For example, the candidates in 2018, when he lost his first two games, he could never get back into it because he just was, he was a little out of it. He was being almost too practical when you start needing victories to jump up the leaderboard. And, okay, is Maxime losing B2 right now? Yeah, he's losing B2. I mean,
and then A3 falls.
I don't know what to make of this.
No, back to your point about Wesley So. I mean, again, as far as we talked about this with Yasser and Sopako in Norway, just his ability to keep his emotions in check. I think it's one of the things that made him a very difficult opponent for Jan Nepomniachtchi, right? Was that his technical, very kind of, I don't want to say dry, but very accurate approach was something that kind of called into question maybe some of the combinations that Jan was going for, right? And I think it made him a difficult, practical kind of matchup for Nepomniachtchi. And I think here, when Maxime is kind of on tilt, not playing his best, here's what's not going to happen. Wesley's not going to beat himself. So you're either going to pull yourself out of this hole or not. You know what I'm saying, right? Wesley's not going to start. He's not going to start messing around. He's not going to lose his focus despite having a 4-game lead.
Right. He's honestly just amazing at that. And a lot of the top players have complimented him, whereas they feel like, they get into must-win territory. They're playing subjective moves, which is not playing chess. It's just a very objective game. And Wesley, on the other hand, is just, he takes his breath, he sits, he relaxes and he gets ready for the next one. And right now, if you look at this position, it looks somewhat promising for white because you see this pawn on e5 and d6. But then you look at the e5 pawn and notice that, well, it's actually not defended. You can go ahead and take it right now. So knight takes e5 is a move just to get rid of this advanced pawn chain.
Well, you can you get away with bishop b7? I guess rook b5, bishop f3, rook b8. Okay, maybe not. Okay, he goes a6. I think the point, Robert, what I was going to highlight is you don't even need to rush taking e5 because it's hard for white to fix that doesn't have defense. You could play bishop b7 now and try to take on f3 or take. Yeah, I actually really like what Wesley did with the bishop b7 move order.
Yeah, I'm with you. You're right. The pawn on e5 can only protect it by some kind of knight g4 move, and then you play h5 and kick the knight away. So you're right. So he gives up e5.
Tundra Mike says in the Chess TV chat, with FIDE acknowledging the Fischer Random World Chess Championship cycle, the Fischer Random World Chess Champion should be seeded into the candidates along with the previous challenger. I like that idea, but not this year. So it's not going to get in. But that's a cool idea for the future.
Too soon.
Too soon.
No, but Wesley, of course, they deserve a champion there.
He's up 2 pawns now.
Yeah.
Is he about to go up 5 games? It might be. 6 minutes for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the 5-minute portion if you're just tuning in. Good for you because we still have 2 full hours of amazing chess up ahead. 2 of the best players in the world throwing down. We have more than 12,000 of you across, actually almost 13,000 right now, no matter where you're tuning in from, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. Thanks for making us a part of your day. This is Chess TV, and we are here to serve you. By the way, that was awkward, but thanks for letting me do it.
You're very welcome, Danny.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, Wesley So, by the way, threatening queen takes g3. Watch out. That's an f2 pawn that's pinned, and he has to play king f1 to unpin it. Oh.
Honestly, I wasn't even looking at the g3 square, so I'm glad you pointed it out. And I know it's rare that I compliment you and note that you're pointing things out that I wasn't looking at.
We've been getting along swimmingly today. Like,
I think you're right. We have been.
We have been. It's just because we miss each other so much. Such a good time.
Whoa, what do you think about the decision to trade rooks off the board?
I think it actually worsens So's winning chances.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
he's probably still pushing, but...
Danny, you know what I'm about to point out?
What? Wrong color square the bishop.
Yep. Look at the h1 corner, dark square bishop, which means that if white is able to sacrifice a piece for some of these pawns and leave his h-pawn, dark square bishop, h1 corner. And actually, I know I always say that, and some people are like, why does Robert always mention it? Wait a second. This is now pure opposite color bishop. I don't think this is going to be winning.
Yeah, because... Wait, no, but there's the bishop e1 backdoor problem that... So the issue here for Maxime is, despite the obstacle bishop, these pawns being stuck to dark squares, everyone, leave them... Okay, and he just resigns!
Yeah, he's over it.
Yeah, I was going to say that... So I think Robert and I agreed the rook trade hurt winning chances, but the knight trade helped it. And let me bring up the analysis board to kind of show why the resignation happens. The main point here is that these weaknesses on dark squares aren't going anywhere. Again, we talk about that. Obstacle to bishops, by definition, means look but don't touch. These guys will forever be dancing around each other. And that means if you have weaknesses on the color of your opponent's bishop, you're in big trouble. So if the king is permanently stuck over here to, let's say, stop that, well, guess what? Now it's just a free walk for the black king because this guy's forever out of the day, and I'm just going to win over here because of my c-pawn. So that was... Okay, honestly, I didn't expect it to end so quickly, Robert, but that was excellent technique yet again by Wesley So, who with a 5-game lead is blowing minds right now. We see some hot fire So everywhere. Hot fire.
Yeah. Well, when you get into an endgame like that, as we were discussing, one of the things that white wants to do is trade off pawns because since you have opposite colored bishops, your opponent can't control the other color complex. And black's pawns were on light squares, which means the bishop could have kind of operated and tried to attack those pawns from behind in an ideal scenario. So g4, g5 was definitely the wrong idea for Maxime. But okay, he's fully in tilt mode. He's playing a French, so hopefully that helps him because he is a Frenchman. He's playing the French. You know how we feel about the French here as commentators. F5 feels like an open attack for Wesley.
Or if I'm white, I'll play queen e2 and just hope you miss bishop takes h7. You know how I love a Greek gift.
Yeah,
and some Greek kebab, actually.
I was about to say no souvlaki for you.
Yeah. Oh, he goes for it. Yes. Queen D3.
Wait.
It actually works here because you get the tempo with H3. Oh, dude, I inadvertently called it.
Wait. But what if I go rook F8 or rook FD8?
But I still get Queen H7. I check and pick up G7, and the attack is on.
Oof.
Dude. Okay, first of all, let's show the analysis board for everyone why this is a tactic I had in my brain. Again, this is pattern recognition. You just have to know. Whenever you have a pawn on E5, by definition in a French structure, it should mean there's no knight on F6, which therefore means you have to always keep an eye out on these pawns. Now, typically, it doesn't work in this forcing manner unless the queen is immediately on the light square diagonal. But in this particular position, he's able to do it and then bring the queen to the diagonal with tempo because the third rank is completely clear. So, for example, if G6 had been played, watch out. Queen H3, now when you move the rook, it's just mate in 2. This is a very, very common mating net. And so Maxime did the best thing, which is to move the rook away. But after check, and even Queen H5, even more accurate. It's just over. It's just sick, bro. Dude,
This
just
is
re-gifted his way
unreal.
to a 6-point lead in the Speed Chess Championship.
And then we get F4.
Dude, we almost saw Wesley smile there.
The thing is, you know how humble Wesley is.
Yep.
F4, F5 was played. Did you see that?
What is going on here? Oh, wow, Maxime is on full tilt. Full tilt.
Yeah, but why did Wesley play F5? I think Wesley likes a good opening joke.
Yeah.
We've seen this in several occasions where was it against Mamedyarov when he played like it was like A4, A5 or something like that, or A3, H6. What was it? It was some ridiculous opening. But Wesley has good fun when his opponents are playing these offbeat lines, and I feel like Maxime obviously full tilt, and as we see in the ticker, he had a 4-game comeback against Wei Yi.
Yep.
But 6 games against Wesley So, it's a bit
6
of a
games
different story.
would be officially record territory if you're keeping track. So anything's possible, and records are made to be broken. But let's just say it might be good for Maxime's emotional well-being that he gets to play me tomorrow, huh?
I honestly think this is a good chance for him, though, this game. Because if he can win this game and then, say, go +2 in the 3-minute portion and end up -3,
okay,
heading
still
to bullet,
okay.
Still got a chance.
Okay.
So right now, just go for the attack, like bishop G5, like knight D4 in some order. You know, he's going to do all these moves. But rook E1 now, hitting E6, threatening the F5 pawn. Queen E2 is better. Right?
Yeah.
Same idea, hitting the pawn.
Officially, this will be the last game of the 5-minute portion. Everyone, you see time about to run out. We will take a very quick break, and then the 3-1 begins. So don't go anywhere. Still lots of chess ahead. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, we know he's one of the best chess players in the world, most likely going to be playing in the candidates to try to compete for the World Chess Championship challenger spot. So it's not often you get to see this kind of view, and stay tuned because it may get interesting. All right, knight C6. Wesley trying to defend, given that he has this 2-pawn advantage, and I don't know. I'm not feeling this sack.
Well, he's going to get a rook A to E1 situation going where he's going to take on F5. So either take on C6 right now, but rook A to E1. Now F5 is hanging, and he definitely has compensation here because there's only going to be a 1-pawn deficit after White's next move.
Okay.
And if that's the case with an open king, certainly has chances.
I admit I underestimated how dangerous White's position was with the knight still being traded. I kind of made this assumption that if the knight is traded on C6, White's compensation must be dwindling, but you're right. This is still very dangerous for Black.
Yep. And he's up 40 seconds on the clock. And when you're tilting, right, oftentimes you're tilting in a very negative direction.
Yep.
But sometimes you get on a win and you go on a winning streak, and then everything feels much better. I mean, we saw Artemiev do this against Levon Aronian, right? Levon got off to a 2 or 3 game lead in that match as well. And then Artemiev just went on an absolute tear and finished up 7 points by the end of the match. He won 16-9.
Yeah, but to be
comebacks are
fair,
not
again,
impossible.
it's really hard to do that against Wesley So for the characteristics we've described. He very rarely goes on tilt, right? Which, as you said, can sometimes be a drawback, but most of the time it's a huge plus in his favor because chess is so objective and he keeps himself calm. So, all right, but Maxime, all that matters is you got to win one, and it looks like he's about to be on the attack. Queen H5 check it. What?
Exactly. Take back on F6, Queen H5 check, rook E to F1, knight to E4. The attack sort of plays itself, and the defense is not very easy. So Wesley looking like he's in some trouble here. He takes the rook.
Wow.
No.
That's
this can't be good.
maybe a
Rook
good
F-
decision, actually.
Well, Rook F1 here, like just hit the queen, get the F6 square for your bishop, or sack on E5 at some moment if the king stays there too long. I think Rook F1 is a move to get that bishop out,
Okay.
extricated.
You know, there's also Queen C4. Oh, he slayed it right after I called it. Hit C6.
You and Maxime are just on the same page.
We're just like, I mean, that's so good for me, not him. That we're playing the same level of chess right now.
You have to castle queenside, I think, which is a scary looking move. But
yeah, the point, everybody, is that was a fork of the G8 rook and the C6 pawn. With it, more devastating things to follow. But that means Queen C4 was good. Now what can he do? He can come into
where's the bishop
A6.
going? Wait, where's the bishop going?
So the point is, if you go to H6, there's like what, Queen G6, and
Yep, that's a fork.
that's a fork, a double attack. You attack more than one piece at a time, and bad things often happen. Actually, so maybe my Queen C4 was no good. Oh, silly Maxime. Never go for my moves. LOL.
Uh-oh. You know, it looked very interesting. And once castle queenside happens and you're starting to think for however many seconds he's been thinking for now, 40 seconds or so, never a good sign.
Never a good sign.
The
I know
good
that
news,
from
though,
personal experience.
is once white takes on C6, that protects the G2 square. So, like, bishop H6, queen G6, as we're saying, queen takes C6 protects the mate.
Yep.
And also might lead to a vicious attack.
That's going to be the key point, and that's why he's calculating. Let's show that on the analysis board. So, okay, he plays rook F1 first, but the point is, at some point here, you probably are losing this bishop, but trying to get a nasty attack here. The problem is, if you come up short, then Wesley So will once again have been so amazing.
Ugh. I mean, this is the one game where Maxime just had to win. Not just because of the score, but the positioning is two pieces for rook.
Yep.
Queen C4 was too fancy.
I know you're just rubbing it in because I suggested it.
No, I really am not. I just...
No, I'm kidding, but no, it was too fancy. It looked better than it was.
If I was rubbing it in, I would have done it immediately and much more harshly than it seems like I might be doing now.
That's why we love each other.
It just goes to show that these kind of attacks that are hitting C6, hitting G at the same time, these sort of, if it works, it works. If it's a one-move threat that can be dodged by a move like castling queenside, and then you don't have a concrete follow-up, it's one of the moves you probably want to avoid. But this happens all the time. I've seen it happen so many times to my students, to myself, where I get in love with a certain concept, and then I don't really think about the actual consequences besides the fact that it looks good and it should be something without finding anything concrete. And looks like to make a draw by checking.
Well, if King B8, he can have perpetual. If Wesley wants more, and he's really feeling he's feeling his chance to get I can't believe I'm going to say this, 8-point lead. Wait, 7. That's why I can't say it. 7-point lead.
You were just talking about, all this geometry, but
there you
nobody claimed you were doing
math.
A little algebra. Yeah.
Geometry's not real math.
I'm not going to get in this debate with you right now. It is math, though. Smarter chess odds. And did he predict this? No. So I'm not on
but he did predict So was the favorite.
Yeah, but not like this.
Well, nobody did. Although I'll give Smarter Chess some credit, because in our private chat that the staff has, I can say that Matt, and again, I'm going to say it now in hopes that he's wrong and that I'm jinxing his prediction, but he said not only does he think So's the favorite, Matt Jensen said he believes this match has runaway potential because of Maxime's history of tilting. And by the way, I have that on record. He said that before the match started. So unfortunately, for all of us out there, the Smarter Chess prediction making me look dumb. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, the 3-1 portion gets underway. Vachier-Lagrave versus So, the Speed Chess Championship action when we return. And we are back with the 2019 Speed Chess Championship in a match that has been hotly anticipated. Two of the biggest names in the world, but right now, kind of surprising us with where it's going, despite what our predictions said would happen, Robert. We've got a runaway, and maybe not for the player that a lot of people expected.
Yeah, I mean, Wesley So was the favored player in the longer time controls based on Smarter Chess's stats, the history of the Speed Chess Championship, but this is just out of hand. We have seen Maxime Vachier-Lagrave tilt in previous Speed Chess Championship matchups, but Wesley So keeping his composure, letting his opponent tilt and not being distracted by any of that, he has now surged out to a 6-game lead. Very impressive stuff.
Well, and there you have the stats. And just to show how shocking it is, again, our predictions did have Wesley So as the favorite, even though I kind of disagreed with them. I thought Maxime was the favorite. As I said, a site, we can't really mention those types of sites or encourage anybody to use them, but there are sites that run lines, a la, the kind of Vegas prop bets things that exist. People do that sort of thing. And they also had Maxime Vachier-Lagrave as a favorite. So we're not alone in terms of, when there's actual money on the line. I think a lot of people felt that this was much closer to a toss-up, and maybe it will be. The match is young. We still have 60 minutes ahead of 3-minute chess, and then, of course, a half-an-hour bullet. And while I didn't expect it would ever be this big of a lead for So, I said even if Maxime is trailing a little bit heading into bullet, I still might consider him the favorite. So before games get underway, we want to actually bring up our daily question, because it was brought to our attention how much of a controversial issue this might be in our Speed Chess Championship format, because we're working with players. It's such a busy calendar year in 2019. It's a Grand Prix year, a Grand Chess Tour year. It's so much going on. Dingley Ren played yesterday, very, very late for him in China. But Wesley So is playing from India, way out of his normal time zone. And by the time this match is done, it'll be about what it was for Dingley Ren, about 1:32 a.m. in India. Right now, he's playing very well. So, Robert, anyway, let's run through these tweets and see what people think. We have one comment here from Zeverzak9, says there's evidence the mind is sharper and less reliant on heuristics during different parts of the days. Okay, so science coming at us there. Jacob Fitzgerald says they could definitely give an advantage due to tiredness or distraction, but that are a function of time, or distractions that are a function of time. I don't know how I misread that. My bad. Jacob Music, a lot of Jacobs, Robert. Yep. We almost named you Jacob, by the way. If both players prepare by adjusting their sleep schedule in advance, there should be no advantage to any side. What do you think, Jacob?
Are you asking my opinion now and calling me Jacob? Because it's not particularly funny.
I don't know why I thought that was so funny. Anyway, the games are going to begin here any second. But Robert, your thoughts on what we saw there from the comments on Twitter? Use the hashtag SpeedChess if you still want to get your opinion heard. And your thoughts on how Wesley So's playing despite being way past his bedtime.
I don't know, Richard. It's hard to say what time of day is best to play chess. But no, I think that it does matter if you are just out of your comfort zone. Dingley Ren, for example, he said he's never played chess that late before. But players who are used to staying up very late and just playing at hours of blitz on end, they won't struggle as much. So I think the more online experience you have in general, the less it matters what time you're playing.
Okay, that's fair, right? And obviously it's a discussion we like to hit controversial points on the head. So those who were critical of us yesterday and Dingley Ren playing a little bit out of his time zone, like I said, we're doing our best with a global event with players coming in from all over the world and a very busy schedule. Today we're doing the same thing with Wesley. Right now it doesn't seem to matter, and we'll see what ends up happening here. But that was an amazing stat right there about how dominant Wesley So has been in the 3-minute portion, Robert.
Yeah, he's been an absolute monster. And, well, if Maxime keeps playing the way he has been playing, it's going to be trouble for him. But right now, this is a very complicated type of position where I do always think white is better. You have more space. Your pieces are all fully developed. There's a bishop on c8, a rook on e8 that are not into the action yet. White trades off one pair of rooks, brings the other rook to d1. Yeah. And, well, now might be the time to play bishop d7 and finally finish your development on that side of the board. Excuse me.
But here, white has to have a little bit of an edge because of the open file. We have an open file dominated by white here, which maybe leads to some back rank tactics. You have to be careful about it. Is he calculating some way to take advantage of d7 here?
Well, bishop takes f6 runs right into bishop takes f6 with the queen under attack, so you're not getting away with it. And, well, black goes bishop c6 next, and then follows it up with a move even like bishop c7, it feels like the worst is certainly behind black in such a situation.
Yeah, I'm with you, actually. And speaking of open files, black's about to get his rook on one here. So this is the kind of Sicilian counterplay we see. White first to the center, but black hoping for the opening. Hoping for the opening.
F5. Look at that move.
Yep.
Wesley just, he's just pushing forward. And the point is that if you take on f5, this isn't just any old free pawn, because then your idea of rook takes d7 is just game over.
Well,
lights out.
I guess. Oh, yeah, f7. I'm sorry. LOL.
I didn't laugh, but
yes. Sometimes cool people these days, they just say LOL instead of laughing.
Got it.
You're welcome.
I missed that memo, but maybe next time I'll be on top of it. Sorry, my bad.
F5 played. Now, knight g4. Now, the thing is, it doesn't actually win material because you can take d8 with Tempe. You also hit the queen. But Wesley decides to just maintain the tension. I thought maybe queen e3 check was coming at the end of that line, but I guess white would have the 7th rank, so no.
Yeah. So instead, he's played knight f6, protecting the bishop. Now f5 actually can be captured. If you take on e6, simply take back with the bishop on e6, and it looks like black has neutralized most of white's initiative. In fact, all of the initiative.
In our faster time control here, right now, neither side with a big edge on the clock, but Maxime with a few more seconds if we're really keeping track.
Yep. Whoa, he took the pawn e6. I turned away for a second.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that.
Yeah,
maybe he's anticipating, Robert, maybe he's anticipating the end game and wants the king to have a quick entry and this pawn to already be passed, I guess.
That's definitely plausible. And actually, a move like knight e4 now might speak to that point because c2 is hanging. Okay, he didn't do it.
I liked your move. Okay, but the reason we were questioning taking with the pawn, everyone, is because if you don't get the endgame, opening up the king like this and the fact that the e6 pawn is a target may backfire. And we see Wesley now playing very aggressive. I think if this knight moves, he'll actually deny the trade, maybe something like knight e4. Oh, I'm wrong. There we go. Big surprise. He decides the endgame is good. But even here, I mean, it's still like white is probably no longer in danger of being on the worst side of this at all.
Oh, white is just better because the black king is in danger. And it can't really get out. So at any moment, the rook... Wait, why did he give the a4 pawn? That was surprising me. I thought he was going to protect that pawn and then play rook f1 and things like this. I don't think you want to trade off the rooks because now black's king will feel much, much safer. As at the very worst, it'll be a bunch of checks, but no devastating threats. So take on if I play queen c6 here. Make sure that you have...
You're holding everything. You've guarded c8. E6, E8, D5, so should be a draw.
Yeah, still slightly better for white because you have more space to operate with, and the black king can't really escape the box.
Right.
But if you can't create a clear pass pawn, then who cares if your king can't move out? You just shuffle back and forth.
As they say, the advantage is probably just symbolic here for white, given that, yes, you have the optically better placed queen, right, and as Robert said, the king is kind of cut, but likely with neither side having any real weaknesses to speak of, should be kind of a shuffle puck for a draw. Oh, wait, we decided shuffle puck is not a thing. That was my bad.
Yeah, you were told that by some angry...
yeah, that's right.
I mean, shuffle puck is the thing.
Well, no, knuckle puck is Mighty Ducks 3. Disney, please don't sue us.
Isn't shuffle puck... Oh, that's shuffleboard.
Shuffleboard, yeah. Shuffle puck is just something I made up.
Anyway.
Yep. Good talk.
Here, back and forth.
Back and forth. We're going to tickle this one out. Tickle me Elmo here. It's going to be a draw.
Although this king is very active now.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight what So's doing, because what you get in these endgames where the king comes out, everyone, is the potential at some point to trade queens, and suddenly you're in a king and pawn ending that you can win. But wait.
Oh, he forgot about b6. He should have king a5 first. He should have gone king a5 first.
Oh, he just shakes his head. Wesley has made his first blunder of the match with that move.
Yeah. He should have gone king a5 first. Oh, it's like, in retrospect, it's so obvious.
We're gonna let them finish out because I want to see Maxime win this ending, which he's about to do. He's gonna bring the king up, and then he'll use these two to create what's called an outside pass pawn, and then ultimately win. And then we're gonna show that moment and how instructive it was, because Wesley was literally on pace for us to applaud him with the active king, and now you see head in hand, he knows he blew it.
It's a draw, Danny. It's a draw, though.
What?
You can't win.
King d6.
Because you can't win. No, then I go king d4.
And then a5 first.
Then king c4.
And if b5 first, b4.
Yep.
To the back cave. Let's show what happened. So, Okay, first, everyone, Wesley shaking his head because he blew the win right here. The point is, when you bring your king up very actively, what we were going to highlight is at some point if black just sits, now you've taken your king from all the way over here, right, all the way up here, so that suddenly a queen trade is just an easily winning king and pawn ending. So it's dangerous and kind of weird to bring the king out with the queen still on the board. But here, this was a really good example of why a centralized and dominant queen is so good, because it kind of makes the king's journey to up the board safe. But here he gives check too soon, thinking he already got good enough. He was hoping for king e7, king c5, and he's winning. What he missed was this very nice defensive fine b6, and the king is shut out. And I thought black was winning now, and I'll show why. The point was, I thought at some point black gets here. And the point is, let's say you do this and white doesn't play b4. Eventually, you create this outside pass pawn. You sacrifice it, and in the end, your king is closer. This is just king and pawn endings kind of 101. But Robert pointed out why I'm an international master and he's a grandmaster, because that's not exactly what will happen here. The point is, if b5 is played, then b4, and it's still locked up. And if a5 is played, then king c4. So actually, the reason these guys just kind of shuffle pucked this one home is because neither side can really actually make progress. So there you go, Robert. How was that analysis session?
That was great. I paid attention to almost none of it. No, I'm just kidding. That was that was really good. No, you explained exactly why. At first glance, it looks like black should be winning because you have the outside pawns, but in fact, it's a move-by-move situation where it's very concrete and in fact doesn't work. However, Maxime might not have gotten away with the win in that last game. In this game, his position looks excellent, because white is barreling down at this pawn on e5. This move b4 not only threatens pawn to b5 to kick the knight away from the defense of the e5 pawn, but also threatens knight to c5, hopping into the action, protecting d3, attacking b7 and e6 simultaneously. And a move like b6 is a move that you typically do not want to play for black, because look at that bishop on g2.
Yep.
It's a bishop on the long diagonal unopposed, and so white's pieces are just better, black's pawns are looser. This should be Maxime's game for the taking, but he has to find a real knockout blow. And he starts with knight c5, of course, is a good move.
Yeah, I want to bring up the back cave real quick, because while I was instructing on the king and pawn ending, I missed the opening. So how did Maxime get... This is the best opening we've seen him have in a while, right?
Yeah, maybe all match.
I mean, maybe all match. And look, he went really kind of just off the beaten path, plays a King's Indian attack, and so takes this sort of weird fianchetto response. But really, I guess it gets wild with f5. I guess f5 is probably the move so we'll be regretting, because that just overextends. And as Robert said, in the current structure, e5 is such an easy target. Here comes queen b3. You've got diagonal problems. I'm with you. I like Maxime's chances here. So,
and there, I was saying, is knight takes b7 working here? It does not work. But my idea by knight takes b7 is to play c5 with check on my next move. But if you play knight takes b7, bishop b7, c5 check, there's queen e6, which saves the day. So it looks like black barely gets out of that one. And all right, d4 played to say, well, you can't take me on d4. Your rook on e8 is under attack back there. And all right. And
yeah,
I don't know what to make of this, because now both sides are gaining activity. Black gets control of the e5 square. White is advancing that d pawn from d3 to d5, in which case, well, I think it's helpful for black, because now at least you have some life in the position. Knight cd5 was a good move. So Wesley, I think, picking up some momentum in the position, but it's very complex. A lot of pieces concentrated in the center. And, well, there are going to be tactics here, that's for sure.
Yep.
And, all right, 2 bishops for white. The f5 pawn, now vulnerable. How do you actually protect that pawn? Queen f8. Wow, not a move you typically think of right away. Can I sack with knight takes f5, take on e4 next? Probably not. They're not my pieces, so I'm glad to do it. But
that's how I would blow the advantage here, would be unnecessarily sacking. I have rubbed off on you so much.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I always say, if they're not my pieces, I'm happy to. Wait. Oh, e7 check, rook takes b. Wait. e7 check, queen f7. Okay. I'm like missing all the action here, because I thought e7 just wins a rook. Because if you take my queen on b3, I take yours on f8 with check. But after e7, you just block with your queen on
queen f7. So, I mean, e7 would win a rook for everyone's tactics if that line happened. Robert wasn't wrong about that, but the point is that e7, just queen f7, and black is okay. So, Maxime is still much better here, but He hasn't been able to convert yet. So.
Yeah.
Well, got to give a real quick shout out that we just had a $2,000 donation from Gas Trader in honor of getting the Femme Fatale kind of charity activities going. So one of the big things about this match, everyone, is not only is it for fun, and there's prize money on the line for the ladies to compete for, but it's also a charity stream, and they are raising money for charity. So a $2,000 donation for Hype. One, that should be more of a reason for everyone to stick around after the show. Make sure you watch the Femme Fatale matchup, which is coming up right after this SEC match. But also, amazing donation there. Wow, $2,000, that's a lot of money, and thanks for that, and looking forward to everything that happens there. So, there you go.
Yep, that's going to be a lot of fun. We already pointed out who we thought were the slight favorites. Yep.
Okay, White is trying to work the bishop pair now as the new advantage in the position, but you got to give So credit, because if we were evaluating what was going on earlier, Robert, with that overextended center and e5 being a weakness, that did not happen here.
Yeah, what did happen?
In fact, Wesley is probably just better now as black. He looks about as confused as we feel. He's like, how did I get this position?
All of a sudden, black is the one with a passed pawn here.
Yep.
And is black also up 2 pawns? I mean, everything collapsed.
Yeah, black broke through and ended up using the center with the 2 knights. So Wesley pretty good at this 3-minute chess thing. As we pointed out in the stats earlier, he has basically dominated the 3-1 segments in his SCC history, including winning the 3-1 segment against Magnus Carlsen, a match he lost. So this particular segment, even when he goes down, tends to be where he kind of hangs his hat.
Yeah.
And he's playing well right now, up on the clock against Maxime.
Rookie one wins immediately.
Rookie one's just game over. And he look at that head nod. He's like, "Yo, did you see that? I just played Rookie one." Could we get a gif of that? So like, I mean, that was nasty.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say.
He's got a 7-point lead. That's what to say. Wesley So in Blitz is as good as it gets. I mean, for those who remember, even against Hikaru Nakamura in the Speed Chess Championship, like the final match last year, I believe Wesley either drew or even won that segment. Ultimately, he lost that match, and I think he was -2 in Bullet. But again, the jokes about Wesley being a very strong Blitz player, they're not real. I mean, there's not a joke.
Yeah, I don't know who would ever say that he's not. He tied Hikaru Nakamura, I believe, 5-5 in both the 5-minute and 3-minute segments and lost a tight match in the Bullet.
Right.
And Wesley lost his first game of this match, if you remember, Danny. And we were okay, off to a shaky start. And then since then, it's just been Wesley dominance. Who does he think he is, the Boston Celtics of this year? Losing game 1 and then just going on a tear?
Right. Did you
just
purposely
unbelievable stuff.
Bring that up because they beat my Suns last night? Was that what you did?
Firstly, I don't know how to, just happens.
Rook to
Suns
C8
tend to lose
played.
basketball games.
We're moving on now past the Celtics, okay? I get it.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on here? This is a kind of weird sort of reversed Carlsbad kind of structure here. You've got this normal QGD structure that black often has, and white normally has the minority attack with things like b5 and b4 on the agenda to try to undermine d4. But here that's kind of what black has. So you can't play b5 right away for obvious reasons. Well, actually, wait. So first 2 questions, Robert. Was b5 possible, and why isn't d5 hanging? What am I missing? Just queen trapped? But
queen
how?
d5, bishop e6.
But then queen g5.
Oh, so the queen's not trapped.
I wanted you to complete my
sandwich.
There you go. There.
But I'm full.
We still got
I'm full. You know I ate that sandwich before the match.
Yeah. No, but I didn't understand why that pawn wasn't hanging. Maybe he'll regret it, but I think it might have been hanging a move before too. He just goes in and steals it, and I think it was a good idea. I'm kind of greedy. Yasser has taught me well.
Yasser loves to steal pawns, and that queen is still in harm's way. Bishop h6, the only move is queen g4, and there's no discovery with that knight. That's unreal.
It's so weird. I mean, we got to analyze that real quick to show what Robert's talking about. Bishop h6, queen g4, and this is the kind of position where you're staring death in the face but living to tell about it. There's no powerful discovery by the knight. Knight e3, you got nothing. Knight takes d4, you actually lose a piece. If you're Maxime, you got to be irritated about that, but it looks like Wesley just stole that pawn and got away with it.
Wow. I mean, it still looks somewhat risky. Knight c4. So
but now Wesley can just trade everything.
Yeah, he's trying to play against this backward c-pawn, but is it enough?
Right, you're already down a pawn, so it's hard to just settle on a positional approach of hitting the c-pawn. I mean, now Wesley, he has moves like g4 to consider. Oh, no, g4, bishop h6, haha. Then you've already resid yourself, the Botez gambit.
Yep. And, well, the attack of the c-pawn is real. Rook fc8. Whoa. Rook takes c3, hits the knight in f3, so this doesn't work.
Very nice. Wow, Maxime swindling his way back into the game. I love it.
And I wanted to play bishop h6, but probably just
But even if you don't,
c3.
you can trade everything and take d4. Can you get away with that?
You can also take d4 right away, now that you mention it. Because knight d4, rook c3, just rook c3 back, and there's all these discoveries in the queen if you try to take on c3.
Yeah.
Pretty nice stuff. I'd rather keep the c-file closed from your pieces, because if I take on c1, you'll have some back rank checks.
I like this move first.
Yeah.
It's intermezzo, you're threatening things like knight takes f3. Now you can take, probably with the bishop, keep the queens on the board? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And very important, bishop g3 is never possible to protect the pawn on f2, because the pawn on f2 is pinned, so rook takes g3 would be a free piece. And if you can't protect this pawn on f2 and rook takes e7, looking like an option, the problem there is... Actually, what is the problem there? Oh my gosh, maybe there's bishop f2 check, queen f2, rook c1 check,
king up,
king g2, then queen c6 check.
Oh, sweet. And if king g3, rook c3, and if queen f3, rook c2.
And the points that are king g3 have queen d6 check.
And you just pick him up. Well, Wesley took the pawn. He was kind of like, I'm going to call Maxime's bluff here, but this might be one he regrets.
Yeah, Maxime spot the move. He found bishop f2.
Yep.
And it really just about... I honestly, at first glance, was like, let me just open up this king, and there has to be something here. But there are no defenders in front of this king. So bishop f2 works out.
But what's funny is you could play king f1. And it's not over. And black also has like crazy dark square problems to worry about. Rook e8, bishop e5. So Wesley taking his time here. We're going to see the scramble commence. Oh, he goes for this. Okay. Maybe there was some problem with king f1. I thought maybe he would settle on that idea. But instead he walks up. He loses the rook, shakes his head. And guess what? Maxime Vachier-Lagrave wins his first game since this match started. If you're one of the still roughly 12,000 viewers here in English, many more across all of our international partners, thank you so much for being here. This is the 2019 Speed Chess Championship. Clearly it is a Wesley So kind of day, but that was a big win. Big win.
Huge. And from Maxime, you need to keep it up. You can't just have that be a one-off event. He won the first game. He won that game in game 16. But you can't have this kind of spread between victories. So we liked his position the first time around with this opening. I think it was game 3, if I'm not mistaken, where Wesley ended up winning a pawn, and then Maxime somehow got a good bishop versus knight ending with the rooks on the board. And so he's going for the same exact plan, but with 3 minutes on the clock rather than 5. And I think that with the fewer minutes on the clock, I do think that favors white in these more aggressive structures, because black always has to be considering, is there a sacrifice about to happen on the e6 square? Is d5 going to happen to open up the bishop on b2? So
you're saying the trades here make it a little easier for black?
No, I was saying the opposite.
Oh.
I was saying, not necessarily the trades themselves. I was saying the clock situation with also what's happening on the board. I think it's harder to play this as black than it is as white. At least that's my take on the position, because a move like d5 right now or in the future is always a scary proposition.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Normally I would say that the minor piece trades, when you're playing any kind of IQP or hanging pawn structure, favor the person playing against the pawns. because with less material on the board. But in this particular situation, I hear what you're saying. So just the one knight trade actually kind of helps white. It clarifies things. Now you can put the rook on d1. You're trying to punch d5 through. So I feel you. I mean, I disagree.
Yeah. I mean, I was more talking about the clock and board combination rather than the specifics of the position. But I don't know. Anytime this move d5 comes in, you have to be a little bit concerned about if that pass pawn can roll forward.
Right, and it is one of those off. It's the debate of these structures, right? Because is it a strength or is it a weakness? It's isolated, but it's passed, right? Okay, well now.
Now I think we have both immediately. We're like e5. I'm not sure about that.
Now
one.
we love white's position. Now that d pawn is anchored, the dark squares. d6 is calling my name. By the way, can I just play knight a7?
Yep, and he did. You went full Timothy Chalamet there.
He did. He's going to go knight c6, and he's going to have a protected, okay, no longer protected, but a powerful pass pawn and the light square bishop.
Can he go g3, bishop
I think
g2?
so.
Ooh, that's kind of nasty.
Okay, but if g3, queen c6, bishop g2, e4.
Maybe after queen c6, I take on e5 first. I think I have to.
Okay,
at that
there
point.
you go. That works. Okay, if g3, queen c6, e5 is taken first, and then the threat of bishop g2 is bananas.
They're also, I mean, I guess queen a4. What's your response to queen a4? Just trying to. All right, c5. Wow, he's saying I'm gonna play queen b7. It looks like to protect this pawn.
Yeah, he's also got spying on f7. If you take, he might play like bishop c4. Just try to overwhelm the light squares so that c6 can't be taken.
Yeah, I mean he's really going for adventurous play and aggressive play here.
Yeah.
He went queen b7.
Okay. Me like.
So how can black kind of stave off the pressure here? If you take on b7 and give me a pawn on b7, you have to rook a7 there. Otherwise, I'm taking on a6 and you're in trouble. But still feels like a dangerous situation for black.
Yeah, e5 is hanging, but the problem is if b7 falls, does most of white's advantage go with it? You can get a6. So the question is, can you like take e5? That's what he's going to do. And if you take, he takes a6, I think. Yeah, okay. So he's answering my question about as quickly as I'm highlighting it. And the point is, if rook a7, I can guard. If rook e7, I can play bishop c3. And if everybody's traded, I should be better in this endgame with the passed a pawn and the bishop pair.
Yeah, outside pass pawns are great in the endgame, and here an a pawn, of course, is more outside than a c pawn is. So, but is there something that Wesley can do right now? Can he play knight? I cannot play knight e4. I answered my own question. I'm trying to figure out if I can trade the dark square bishops, because two bishops advantage is great when it's a bishop pair. But the issue is when you have a bishop versus a knight. Sometimes, what about just take on g7, bishop b5?
Yeah,
this is going to be
you
good
got
for
out.
white. But what I was going to say is, let's say this game continues and this knight can go from e4 to d4. The bishop on the light squares can't touch the knight on a dark square. So that is essentially black's plan here.
Why didn't he play bishop c6? That's interesting. Anyway, Diamond member Lecky333 in the Chess TV chat wants to know if So is playing from India. As you saw in that stat, he's playing from India. It's late, and he just enjoyed some curry.
Did he? I wasn't seeing him eat.
Yep.
Nice. That's making me hungry, just thinking about it.
Penang curry, right? Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so, is white going up? Oh, look at this. Wesley is so smart. Rook e7. If you take on c5,
yep.
Knight takes b5, a takes b5, king d6, and your king...
And
your
he
rook
gets
can't
there
stay
just in time to draw.
Attached to the b pawn. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think black has lost anymore. I think he swindled himself into an equal endgame, and he's going to hold. And again, this is why Wesley's so hard to make a comeback against. I mean, he's a good chess player regardless, but you said Maxime needs to make sure that victory wasn't one-off, right, Robert? And then you outplay him, and you feel like all you need is that 2 games in a row. Give me some momentum. And Wesley says, I'll feed you, baby birds. Feed you with some draw knowledge.
I thought you were going to do a Dikembe Mutombo.
Well, he also shakes his fingers, says, not my house, and then he says, I'll feed you some knowledge. And anyway, he's just a great guy all around, Wesley. So.
And this kind of position, I would say at first glance, looks a bit scary for black because your king has to be distracted to the queen side while white is going to move up the board. The issue for white is, the black king gets back in time.
Yeah, it's too slow. Too slow.
Well, because king c5, you'll play king f4.
And then f6.
And then after g5, do you have
Take, and king e4, king h6, king f3. Oh, wait, no, white wins that.
Wait, but after king f4, f6, g5, you might be able to just go king d6 back. And I think you have to.
That's key. King f4, f6, g5, king d5, let him take, and then king e6 draw.
No, that's bad. After king d6, gf6, you play h6 to keep the king out of g5. That's the very important move.
Okay, yeah. So takes, h6, the king is frozen. Let it go, Elsa. No room to move forward. King e6. Okay, this also works, draw. That was good technique. Now, normally, again, let's go to the back cave. Normally, this is what we would tell our students in terms of how to win these kind of endgames. You got this outside pass pawn, which very rarely becomes the pawn that actually queens. It's always the decoy, so that their king is farther away than yours. But Wesley, of course, knows his endgames and knows that, while normally true, he's just in the nick of time, especially with this accurate Robert Hess h6 move. With no entry points, it's just going to be a dead draw, king and 2 versus king and 2. So there you go. How do you stay in Maxime's kind of corner here, Robert? Put your coach hat on. Give him some encouragement. How does he come back here after that?
He's 1.5 out of his last 2 games, which means that, well, he has a plus score if you ignore the previous games before that.
Yep.
And so he's still fighting. He's still playing pretty well. There's about half an hour left in this time segment. Just focus on every single move, that one by one. And if you can win this game, you cut the lead to 5, and you feel much better than it was up to 7 points.
Yep.
Right? So you need to start an upward trend. That's essential. And, well, this position, for example, he played d4. After knight 4, he's going to g5.
Yeah.
Break the pin.
Okay, this is an aggressive line. Rook e8.
Yep.
Put pressure. So essentially your advice was just keep swimming, Dory, right?
Just keep swimming. And if you look at the time situation, you're up 25 seconds. So keep playing good moves and play them quickly. And that sounds like, Robert, obviously I want to play the best moves and play them as fast as possible. But in a position like this where Maxime should feel quite comfortable, he should not overthink the position. He should trust himself. He's a very, very strong player. Make moves like queen g6. Think about hitting the c2 pawn. Maybe put this one of the rooks in d8 if necessary, moving the knight away. F4 is a very good move.
I was going to say, but you have to love it. Not even, like, the reason Robert and I love that move is, okay, one, objectively, you have the bishop here. You want to open the dark squares against the king. But just from a practical point of view, we love that move, right? That's so being like, I'm in the lead here. I'm going to make this thing sharp. And I'm not afraid to do what I think is objectively best, even if I'm trying to protect a lead. He's just going to go for the attack on the dark squares.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, I think queen e6. I mean, he was trying to take on e2, but somehow my queen being away from the g5 pawn makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
And he'll have to play queen g6. I guess he can't really. Bishop d3, queen d3. Your queen's not getting into g6. Well, maybe he should do that, actually. Bishop d3, queen d3, queen g6, just trade queens off and be slightly worse, but nothing too major.
Well, he may end up going for something like that anyway because you don't want the attack to get strong against your open king. So looking to get the queens off the board. Maybe queen g6 next move. You kind of want to... Okay, he takes first, and here comes your queen g6 move, I think.
Actually, I really like what Maxime did in the last few moves. If he can get knight to e3, well, look at that knight hop in via f5 or d5, and there's no real way for white to stop it, except from the queen a5.
Yep.
But your queen's kind of going into no man's land over there. But here comes knight e3.
Yeah. Although, was that intentional?
Is what intentional? Allowing the knight into e3?
No, giving up the d4 pawn with it.
Well, now knight c2 is actually knight d5 and knight c2 are both pretty deadly threats. And here comes the ambulance. I think you can hear that. That's for that rook on f6.
Yep.
I hope you understand
rook
that.
On
That
f6
rook on f6 is stuck.
Being sent to the emergency room. The point, everybody, is the rook is sort of pinned to an undefended queen. So knight d5. Again, the obvious move is a fork coming to c2.
Pretty awesome, actually. You don't see geometry like this that often.
Very
and
strange. It's one of those things that's been kind of not a pattern you see every day. So I've been a little skeptical of how he did it. But the knight e7 move was really key.
Yeah. And the knight e3 covered f1 as well. Look at this.
Yep.
Knight c2 played. Wait, but... I thought knight d5 was better than knight c2.
What's his follow-up on queen c3?
E1 is covered, so queen c3. Oh.
Ooh, Wesley maybe finds something even better, but...
Oh, look at
Rook
that
E1!
move! That is sick!
He's got the back rank, and there's no way to deal with it.
So you have to go queen e8 check first to protect the bishop, and then play king g1. But then you're going to lose the b2 pawn in these positions.
That was a sick move, dude. Rook E1?
Dude, that was unexpected.
Dude, I don't even know what it does anymore.
Oh my gosh, that was
that was
awesome.
Okay,
and now
watch
Black's
this just
just
end up in
better.
a draw anyway. That was crazy.
But Black's better in this endgame, right? Because you talked about the outside pawns earlier.
Yeah.
Here I have an A pawn versus what's going to be a D pawn.
I was saying watch it end in a draw anyway because I was worried that White has perpetual check options.
So play on, Maxime. He's up
You
a
have
minute
to play on.
in 10 seconds. He's up a pawn.
Yeah, you're up a minute. You're up a pawn. No choice. Find a way to play this game on. Okay, and So makes the smart decision, I think. Isn't begging for a perpetual yet. The best thing
look
to
at that
do
centralization.
is here comes A5.
Yep.
Me like.
And only Black can be better here.
Yep.
Where is White's perpetual? I don't see it.
The queen centralized here guards all the squares, all the entry points. The only question is, can you maintain that and advance your A pawn in these positions, everyone? And that's kind of what they pause to think about here is how do I get my queen in a spot that lets me rush but keeps the perpetual away?
Yeah. And
look at this, by the way. Sometimes you get the perpetual away by just bringing the king up.
oh my gosh, here comes the king in. Wait, can I
love
just
this.
take that pawn? Give me that pawn. Queen d4.
There's a trick.
What's the trick?
I'm looking. Maybe it's queen e6. I don't. There's
Then queen e5 back.
Wow.
Just
yeah, he
snag
just
that
takes it.
pawn.
Wesley's
Wow,
down
queen
on the
e5
clock
back.
here.
And down on the board. He's down
Yep.
a clear pawn now.
This is the momentum you have to get if you are the Frenchman with three names. One win at a time, as Robert said. I like this move to come back to e5. Look at that.
Now king f5 and just sneak back to g6.
Yeah, it's like I served my purpose. I brought the king up. I've won your d-pawn. This is also good because, again, we highlight this a lot in these queen and pawn endings, right, Robert, that you have to be willing to activate your king and go into the face of checks in order to win these endgames often.
But there's so many checks here that I'm a bit concerned.
You think he went too far?
I just like putting my king on g6 where I knew it was safe.
But I think the geometry will work here. I think if he can find a way, so he goes c4 instead, but king b4 will happen, and eventually the point is you're going to be able to start blocking checks and rush the a pawn.
Yeah, that's true. You can always block with king a3 and then queen b4 if necessary, but
f6
I don't know, queen
falls.
b4 is queen e3. I care less about the pawns and more about the checks, but you're right. f6 actually falling there is pretty bad. King b2 now. Then let's check on e2.
King b2, queen e2, king c3, I think. He's trying to... Okay, goes to a3.
Wait, he had king c1. Then there were no more checks, because if you checked in the back rank, I offer the queen trade.
He should have gone then to b2, yeah. Go for it. Go back. If he's not careful, he's about to repeat 3 times. Queen e6.
But do you see what I'm saying about how he could have gone king to g6 and not have to deal with all this?
Yep.
It might work out. Okay, queen e1, queen e5, game over.
Queen e1, queen e5, trades queens out town population, so...
Yeah, Wesley's not going to be happy about that.
Okay. He loses 2 games in a row, sort of, right? He's lost 2 of his last 3. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has made this a 5-point match, and we have liftoff, ladies and gentlemen, because, again, even our smarter chess predictions said that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is the favorite in Bullet. Now, they correctly predicted Wesley So was the favorite in Blitz, but... This is, now remember, MVL was down 4 games against Wei Yi and came back.
He did. And now he's on 5 here, which is, okay, that's a ton.
Yep.
But he has a bit of momentum. He's got some wind in his sails. I don't know if you saw it, Danny, but Wesley grabbed his head. He was not very happy about losing that end game just now. And so we say that Wesley really doesn't tilt, and that tends to be the case.
Yep.
But it's the first time for everything. And so Wesley needs to keep his composure here. He is playing quite well overall. He's up 5 games in this match. So it's not the time to, criticize yourself too harshly or to be like, it doesn't matter, I'm up. Just play the board. That's it.
Diamond member Vin Silden in the Chess TV chat says, "Good job showing emotion, Robert. It almost looked real when you freaked out." People have often said that you are a robot because you're so good at chess.
I don't think that's really why. I think it's because you're the funny man, and
Right.
I'm just the guy who's always.
You're the guy who's always irritated to be next to me. Anyway.
I like MVL's position here too, by the way. Slightly better, no risk.
He's doing good. He's on it. Got a little bit of going.
All right. So if you take with the 8 pawn, you play A3. Yep. It's one of those moments where you're not sure whether to play A3 or A4, but this B5 configuration for black, it's not going anywhere.
I think the main reason, too, you settle on A3 there instead of A4 is you still believe in your kingside play here, right? You believe in knight F5 and that kind of stuff. So you're like, I don't need to be creating unnecessary play over here, right?
Yeah.
So you play with D1, you have knight F5. Oh, ooh, C4. He's opening up the square for the other knight so that E5 can be ganged up on.
He's also creating a 2-on-1 and the A and B file, right?
Dude, that is so instructive.
Like in certain endgames, there's like pushing these pawns up the board and creating outside pass pawn chances. And very, very essential to all this is that knights are very bad defenders against pass pawns if they're not blockading them. So in certain variations, this is very far down the road, very high-level stuff.
We'll bring up the analysis board so I can show what you're talking about. The point everyone, Robert, is highlighting, C4, really, regardless of how you take, even though it's technically 2-on-2, it's really a 2-on-1 if you look at it from the A to B file, and that creates a dynamic where white has this outside pass pawn potential. And as Robert said, knight endgames are the closest to king and pawn endings, so they're just not they're not the fastest piece, right? They're kind of slow and clunky, and so whoever gets a pass pawn first, often in endgames of king and knight or king and pawn, usually is much better, maybe winning.
Right.
That was great.
And, well, now he pushes pawn to C5, so out goes all those points.
No, it's still there in the sense that the knights are weak because he has knight F5, knight D6 to hit B7. So I think that Maxime is still kind of in the driver's seat here.
Well, there's no pawn on B7 more.
Well, not anymore. I mean, he played that right as I highlighted it.
Yeah, no, you're right, though. The knight on D6 obviously is stronger. So
no, but Wesley defended it well. It was a good idea by Maxime with C4, but Wesley found a way to deal with the bind, right?
The knight's on D6, as you pointed out.
F7. Watch your
back.
back.
And a big
F7.
issue for black is that the knight on D6 plays on both sides of the board. It hits F7 and B5 right now. And black's knights are really only playing on the king side. So can't take. Oh, queen E4 is by knight G5 check. You can't take. If knight takes E4,
that was
queen
nasty.
takes E4.
You didn't see it.
Oh my gosh.
Let's show it. If queen E4, knight G5 check, Forksville, Boomtown. So here's and by the way, it works even if you take with the knight, right? Because you could take.
Exactly.
Okay, you're not winning a piece, but you're winning a pawn.
But knight, as you said, knight endgames are closest to king and pawn endgames.
Right.
And so knight N3 versus knight N2 often is just winning for the side with the extra pawn because of how similar they are to king and pawn endgames.
Hikaru Nakamura hanging out in the chat called this whole knight F5 D6 plan a few moments ago, and it came to reality. Yeah, I mean, this is Maxime's opportunity here. By the way, again, look at the clock. That's a momentum shifting here, right? That's
the second pawn that was just lost.
A second pawn could be a second game in a row here for MVL.
That would be 3.5 out of 4 for MVL. And this is desperation by Wesley. He's trying to get an attack where one doesn't exist. The knight F4 is hanging. The queen on D7 is hanging. You can't protect both. Well, you can play knight H5 check. I just go back to H2. I'm very safe there.
Yep.
And now I'm up a piece and a pawn.
King H2 avoids the check. So if you go back, first of all, your queen's hanging. So he just resigns. And we see those dancing heads. They might be moving a little bit closer together here before the day is done, everyone. So watch out. We see Wesley shaking a little bit there, and he knows that we got some momentum going there. You got to stop the bleeding now.
And he goes back. This is Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. He goes away from the Najdorf once again into this Taimanov system. And, well, we have this isolated queen pawn again. Yep. Hopefully Maxime can do more with it if you're a Maxime fan than he did last game. He ended up winning that game in the queen and pawn game, but that, it didn't look like it should be winning for him after the opening stage of the game. It looked like white actually was the one with an advantage. And in this particular game, hey, Danny, does this look like a French to you?
Looks like a bad French.
2 bishops for white French.
2 bishops for white. As we say in the French, let me play a dubious opening so I can hope to grovel for equality for the rest of my life. That's the motto, right? We see a Diamond member over there, Award Eagle, saying Bullet could be interesting, MVL on a comeback. And for those confusing, we're not rooting for MVL. Neither is Hikaru, I don't think. We just like close matches. You know, It's nice sometimes when you see 2 of the best players in the world with a lot on the line and a lot of games left. So it's nice. It's, you know, this is going to be close, and I think that's where the excitement is coming from.
Yeah, and for, you know, it looked like it would be really just a lopsided matchup because it was for the large majority of this match. But all of a sudden, it's looking like Maxime is picking up steam. And 95 hits the queen, hits the bishop.
Yeah, I was like, wait, did he miss that?
Is there bishop H?
I want there to be bishop H7, queen H4, or H5, and then rook D1. That's what I want.
Yeah. So let's try it. Bishop H7.
Bishop
check.
H7, king takes, queen H5, you move, rook AD1. I mean,
doesn't that work for
okay,
white?
I wanted it. I might be getting it, right? Christmas come early here. Rook A to D1, I think, although it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. He'll play knight D3.
Or knight F3.
Well, knight F3, you just take with the queen.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry. Yeah, you just take with
check.
the queen. You haven't solved the problem. Right, duh. Okay. Yeah, but knight D3 blocks the D file and forces the ladies off the board, so it's nothing more than the win of a pawn, but still an edge for Wesley.
Yeah, but as we trade off the pieces, you go bishop somewhere, rook C8, take over the only open file, and this should be, they're gonna grin a draw shortly, because this is the problem with opposite colored bishops. You may be up a pawn as white, but the real issue is creating a clean pass pawn, as the light square bishop can blockade whatever pawn is trying to push to a light square, and the dark square bishop can't help that pawn's progress.
Yep.
And so.
Okay, well, likely we see a draw here, but still, Wesley So has not won in about a half an hour, and that's saying something given that he was at 1 point up. What was the biggest lead? 7 or 8 games? Was it 8?
Right. I think 7 was the max.
Okay.
But if it was 8, just in shock.
He's up 4 games right now, but again, if you're just getting here, it was all Wesley So for the first 90 minutes. Right now, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave not only enjoying the taste of his sweater, but also the taste of his chest right now. There you go.
That was well done. And look at Maxime just lock up the entire position, put his pawn A4, cement the queen side, and the pawns are on light squares so that the bishop on D5 can go protect them at any moment, and the bishop on F4 can never attack. It's very, very thematic.
So now what's interesting is who's playing this one out? Is Maxime trying to draw it out to get time off of that 14-minute clock right there to try to get to bullet? But I don't think that's a good strategy because
I haven't seen a draw offered, and well, with the extra pawn, Wesley is the one when the time comes. If he wants to offer a draw, it should only be
right. I guess that's true.
Who's offering? But I think we will see that.
I guess from that point, it makes sense for Wesley to draw it out because even if he doesn't like his chances in bullet, he's still up 4 games. So, you know, give Maxime less chances to make a comeback. And
I saw Hikaru Nakamura in chat, and I wonder what he thinks about Maxime's chances. That, you know, what deficit does he need to reach in order to have a very realistic shot at coming back? How much better of a bullet player does he see Maxime being? Because, well, Wesley has put up very good bullet performance as well. It's not like he's a pushover, of course. So it'd be interesting to hear his thoughts.
We see Lee Chess saying, who said this was over? Let's go MVL. We got multiple chat rooms, no matter where you're tuning in from. We see you. Thanks for being here with Chess TV. And all right, now I'm convinced that So has got a little bit of gamesmanship going on here. A little bit of let me tickle this one out for a little while. I'm gonna get some time off that clock, get myself closer to bullet, protect my lead. It just makes me love the Speed Chess Championship that we have so many angles to discuss here. You have the time ticking down, which is unlike classical chess. You have this, you know, like we say, the meta, the strategy, the gamesmanship. What are they thinking about? What format do they like themselves in?
But are the angles that we're going to discuss, are they orthogonal or not?
They're not orthogonal, but the rooks are operating on orthogonal angles. Whoa, wait, F5 just happened. He's got D5 following. Did he just miss that?
He might have.
Dude, if D6 happens, he's going to...
No, King E7. Wait,
What?
King E7, you take the G7
Yeah.
pawn.
Wesley's like, is that a D pawn, or are you just happy to see me?
Wait, but the H5 pawn is on a light square, which means that I could probably...
You have bishop E8. No, but then the king and bishop are fighting for the squares.
Right.
How do you coordinate? You need the king here and the bishop here.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay, we'll back up in a second and see the blunder because we lost our focus.
But now bishop E8.
No, but you can still never fully coordinate. Okay,
So
the
he
king
played
is going to
bishop
come
E8.
around to C5, B6,
Yeah, this
C7.
is bad news.
This was nice. Now he can take just in time. And
No. If you take H5, I just take B5.
No, if it takes H5, you actually still have D7. You're just winning.
Oh, yeah, that's
and then King C. That's the problem.
Bad news.
Wesley's going to win this. Oh my gosh, what a swindle.
This is unreal.
Maxime just missed F5. Holy Jesus snaps. Let's show everybody what happened there.
That's unreal.
First of all, unreal. And you can't really blame us. We're here to entertain all of you. And we assumed it was a draw too, just like Maxime did. Again, that's what happens when you make assumptions. Look at this. You're moving all around. Obscode bishops, look but don't touch. Title of the latest Kardashian autobiography. You move around, but then we get a sack of F5, forcing the d-pawn through, taking advantage of the tactic that you can't undefend the bishop. And just like that, white gets a pass d-pawn, and black is frozen because if he ever loses g7, we have a second passer.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, what a swindle, what a victory by Wesley So.
I mean, I think now that we're reconsidering that last game, Wesley was just very smart to keep playing. He had no risk whatsoever.
Yeah.
And Maxime didn't have much of a risk, but that's the problem when you start playing you're just playing moves without really thinking because it should be a draw, and then you make one careless decision and your whole position collapses.
I'm just like, that's super frustrating, right? I mean, now the question is, so it wasn't clearly a careless decision by Maxime there, but did he have to allow it anyway? No, I guess he could have easily kept the bishop on the proper diagonal and there would have been no trick.
Yeah, just don't leave your bishop on a square that the king is attacking.
Yeah.
Where it can be undermined. I'm in shock still.
But again, it does give us a cool takeaway. Shows you how many hidden resources can exist in those positions. And again, as you said, why Wesley So had every right to play on.
Yeah. And this game right now, we see that if you take with the queen on c5, you hang the a6 pawn. So you probably don't want to do that. And if you take with the b pawn, you have split pawns on the queen side, which it's not the end of the world, but pawns like to be connected to each other so they can protect one another. And b takes c5 here. Black has some counterplay down the b file. The knight would get the d5 square. Instead, he goes for the more active approach, but just rook d8, queen a6 looks like it scoops up a pawn.
Yeah, and I was highlighting there. He's already got a 3-on-2, so if he can steal a6. Okay, well, Maxime, despite how painful that last loss has to be, and it's going to sting, if he keeps this within 4 games, we have 9 minutes left. It's possible this could be our last 3-minute game with increment how long it goes. Most likely we have one more 3-minute game. And Maxime, I think, is going to win. Look at this nice technique here. He forces the ladies off the board. The reason is now the f-pawn was unpinned, so you had to trade. And here comes b4, a5, and I think Maxime wins this endgame.
Yeah, I'll put his knight on c4, hit the b6 pawn, play b4, a5, as you mentioned. And again, it's about often the quality of your pawns, not even the quantity. I'm not going to give you my c3 pawn, so I'll play rook a3 first. And rook a3 also threatens rook b3 to hit the pawn on
Well, you can
b6.
also play f3 first if you want here. I think that might be even better.
F3, just kick the knight away. Yep, that makes
yeah, you
sense
can't go
to
to d2 or d6. If you go to c5, I gain a tempo. So Maxime taking a second, but f3, and here comes the pass pawn we've been talking about.
Here it is. And knight takes a4 is possible because of the rook a4, b5, but white will go scoop up the pawn anyway by playing rook a5, rook c5, and take the pawn knight to c4.
You
and
get
the
two
pawns are clear. That's the thing is, right? It seems like black is a 4-on-2 on the e through h files, which is true, but they're not as passed. It takes a while to actually push them together, and they will not be 2 pass pawns together. White will never allow that. So we're at this position now where rook
Yeah, the question is, do you forget about just making a passer and try to sink b6 as a weakness, like b5, and then you're trying for rook d6 and kind of stuff, but
then 92 check. There's one tax element in the position.
Yeah, I was kind of speaking generally regardless, but yeah, I mean, that was a concrete threat, and now, whoa, instantly
so
sacks.
quickly.
Dude, he did that without even, like...
I don't think he actually calculated it.
I mean...
Does this work? I mean, if it does, it's brilliant.
If it does, it's brilliant. If it doesn't, it's still brilliant. Just not my favorite kind of brilliant.
But the great thing is the knight on d5 covers the b4.
So dominant. And now the problem is, though, the rook is so perfect here. Prevents the pawns from advancing and keeps the king at bay.
So black is trying to create a pass pawn for himself.
Who's winning now?
And white is trying to rush the king over to b2 to kick that rook from behind the pawn.
At some point, you're going to be just all in here with black, trying to calculate whether you can take g2 and make Harry a real wizard over here before we get a queen on a8.
So strange. King c2 as rook a2 check.
He's got to think about it now. He's got a minute. You're going to use 30 seconds here, I think. You got to try to get as deep as you can. Nope, wrong.
Wait. So wait. Now king... All right, so now the question is king b2 or knight c3. Knight c3 cuts your rook off. Right, so knight c3. Actually, am I trapping your rook over there?
Dude, knight c3 is what a move. If he sees it.
You have to go rook a1, I guess.
a6. It's a fork.
But the king d7, and my king runs...
King d7, b5.
Okay, king c8, I think is probably the move. King d... Wait, b6 now.
b6
oh my God,
if king takes b7. b6 if rook takes b7.
You can't stop the pawn.
b6, king c6?
Then I still b7.
b7. b6 and b7.
The pawns are just too fast.
Dude.
Oh my gosh.
Maxime is converting. He's going to keep this thing close. Hikaru Nakamura gives an LOL. So bad, Wesley. But either way, we're going to have a 4-game lead once again for the American, and one more 3-minute game on the agenda before bullet commences.
Oh my gosh, what a turn of events. First, Maxime botches the position before this, in a drawn position. Now he's snatching a victory from the jaws of a draw.
Crazy, though, because, I mean, Maxime was the heavy underdog in the 3-1 portion. Again, if you missed the stats earlier, Wesley So has performed pretty much higher than everybody in the 3-1 portion historically, including a match where he got routed by Magnus Carlsen. He actually won the 3-minute segment. So this would be an interesting turn of events if Maxime takes the 3-minute segment here. He's already up 4-3. You can see the scoreboard there below their names.
Yep, and he's just making use of those pawns right now.
You want to know something that's funny?
What?
I think Maxime is wearing the same sweater of his little avatar there next to Leon Beast. I think he's wearing the same sweater from the avatar.
You would notice that. But okay, he's pulling away with his victory.
Yeah, he should find a way for these two pawns to make it happen. Now you can even play b7 with tempo. You can also play knight d3 to try to go to c5 to block the checks.
Yep.
Where's he going?
Just b7 check is devastating.
He's going to, after check again, he's going to just run away, I guess. Yeah, there's no way to deal with b7. Wow.
One last game.
One last 3-minute game, possibly two if we see a blunder in the next 2 or 3 minutes, but most likely this is our final 3-1 game. After this, we will have bullet, and there will be blood in bullet. I mean, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, that sounded very, just honestly deadly.
Honestly. Wasn't that like a movie?
Yes. There Will Be Blood.
Yeah, is that like a Daniel Day-Lewis flick?
Yeah.
Is it?
You're asking it as if you don't know that.
I kind of know, but I kind of don't. I was kind of making sure. That's all.
You 100% know that movie. You've probably seen it. You are a Daniel Day-Lewis fan. So I speak
last of Mohicans. Well, some would say I was a Mohican in my past life, but okay, that's another story. But for sure.
I can't stand you right now.
Gangs in New York. What's your favorite Daniel Day-Lewis film? Now that you know I'm a Daniel Day-Lewis aficionado.
I actually really liked Phantom Thread. It probably isn't my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis. My Left Foot was really, really good.
I could look at this. That's why you don't go movie buff with Robert.
I like the movie about the In the Name of the Father.
Okay.
That was good.
I don't know. That was a little slow for me, honestly. But all right.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We teach their own. We all have our tastes.
Chess and Onions in the Chess TV says Caro can't. MVL's actually played well since he switched away from the Sicilian into the Caro Cons and other things. Or let's say it's gone better than his Sicilian has today.
Hikaru saying we have such bad taste in movies. I mean, I'm not really looking at Hikaru for a movie critic.
Hikaru loves Last of Mohicans. I know he does.
He was really good in Lincoln, though. That is very true. But that movie was so long. All right, back to the chess. So right now, White has an extra pawn in the center, but Black has an advanced H pawn, which seems strange when you've castled the king side and you're pushing your pawn in front of your king. But this is actually very thematic. It's a topical line that Black has enjoyed quite a good deal of success with in many top-level games.
Let's go to the analysis board just to show that, because on 9 queen to c2, that's kind of where the topical variation begins, as Robert suggested. The point is h5, while odd when the king is castled, you've got certain other dynamics here, like the open lines toward the king side that kind of justify this advance. And so Black always, in this weird kind of structure, has outside chances of kind of a king side attack. And h4, again, thematically, almost alpha zero-ish-esque, pushing those pawns. Oh, and now he just won the... What happened here? Did So just blunder the pawn with bishop takes c5?
He did.
Wow, now he's... Maxime, up a pawn, obscured bishops. Welcome back, my old friends.
Maxime, he's really been dominating this time segment.
He has, and it'll be the last game here officially. So if he gets another victory and we move into 3-game territory... It's not to say So's still not the favorite at this point. 3 games, I mean, if you had asked him, he'd probably take that. But given that he was up by 8?
Up by 7.
Was it by 7? Okay, I'm sorry. 7.
But still, 7-point lead is just seemingly insurmountable. But right now, Maxime is making the comeback. And let's talk about this position here, Danny, because it's opposite colored bishops. We saw Maxime trying to defend a pawn down opposite colored bishop position 2 games ago. And now he's a pawn up. Mm-hmm. And the way that Black tries to play for win is creating weaknesses on both sides of the board.
Yep.
The big negative about the position for Black is that you have these double pawns. And why is that such a bad thing? It's hard to create a pass pawn when you have double pawns. But you have all the time in the world. As long as you don't trade off all the rooks, you don't want to trade off both pairs. You'll trade off one pair. But then you want to start moving your king up into the action. Maybe he's going to move his second pawn to f6 and try to go b5, things like that. But now rook d4 came because the a5 pawn. Look at that, Danny.
That's a nice defensive idea by So.
In fact, I think he got out of this already.
That might have been the move that kind of secures, I'm going to hold this thing. You were doing a great job highlighting it. I do think moving the f pawn and bringing the king up, Black has this sort of 4-on-3 advantage and now no longer doubled, but a5. I don't think Maxime's going to give up. I think he's still going to try for win. I like f6, maybe even king f7. I was going to say g5, h4. You can guard b7 with the rook, but you can still make some progress over here on the king side.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. There are some chances there, and he's going for it because he has to play on. This is the last game of the
that's what you might as well, right? You got to try to win, and we saw Wesley So swindle him in an obscure bishop ending, and maybe he wants to return the favor.
It's also, these positions make me think of vintage Gadakomsky.
Yeah.
Because that was the type of player who would get this position, and you'd say pretty much 99.9% of players would just make a draw, and Gada just will make your life as difficult as possible move by move. And here, for example, you always consider f4 for Black. Because even if I give up a pawn, if I can dislodge your bishop from the e3 square and start pushing my pawn up the board, that is going to be now f4 right now.
F4 right now, and you get split pawns. You can take h4.
Oh, that looks good.
I like it. F4, split them, baby. Split them, baby. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Put the king on f5 and swing the rook over.
It goes to show that Maxime's been playing better in mutual time trouble, and just when the time starts ticking, it seems like Maxime is the one who is outplaying. Actually, king h5 here also very plausible. In fact, king h5, rook g7, rook g3 is
It's
pretty
one of those
annoying.
weird things where you almost want to tempt him to take the pawn and then mate him, but yeah.
You would have made on the
Yeah, I
brain.
got mate on the brain. You know it. King f5. Then you can play bishop e6 and try to eventually punch him out. Some sort of check.
Yeah.
Oh, he goes bishop e6 right away. He wants the whole thing, but that means, okay, you still got to defend the pawn, so it's kind of the same position I wanted.
That king might land on f3 if you're not careful.
Oh, dude. That's the
Right, like-
idea. It's king g4. You give up the pawn, you gain a tempo, and then king f3.
I'm not giving up the pawn. I mean, you can give up
You want
that.
it all. You want bishop d5 and then king g4.
I want everything. I want
You're
rook
a
g7.
greedy Guillermo today.
There it is. Greedy Guillermo del Toro over here.
Great director, by the way.
Oh, phenomenal for sure.
Phenomenal.
Oh, should we talk about our favorite Guillermo del Toro films, or no? Not now. For another time.
Only if after it we get to talk about our favorite Benicio del Toro films.
Oh,
Then I'll do it.
Okay. Okay.
Later.
Wait, is that bishop trapped? Wait, rook h1. Oh shoot, rook h1 is going to end the game because bishop d2.
Yeah,
rook
because you're fighting
h1,
rook
e3.
h1 and then e3 check, and Wesley So has
Oh
lost
my
his.
gosh.
He's lost his first ever 3-1 segment in the Speed Chess Championship
Yeah,
by a score of 3 games.
that's the comeback that Maxime needed. He's now only down 3 points heading into the bullet portion. And Danny, we thought this match might be over with.
Yep.
We were told in the past never to call a match over until it's over.
That's right.
And, well, it clearly is not over. And Maxime
Joshua Chamberlain strikes again.
I wasn't going to say the name, but I'm glad you did.
We have a match here. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave was favored in bullet by almost 2 games, so don't go anywhere. Buckle up. The 2019 Speed Chess Championship Quarterfinal continues in just a few minutes. And we are back with the 2019 Speed Chess Championship. The action is hot fire. Will it be Wesley So on fire here, finding himself in the bullet, stopping the bleeding, so to speak, as Maxime Vachier-Lagrave mounts an epic comeback? Or will the predictions that MVL will be better when the fastest portion begins hold true, Robert? Your thoughts on what you're feeling here. Make a prediction for us.
Well, we've touted that Wesley So doesn't get tilted, but unfortunately for him right now, he has gone -4 since being up 7 points in this matchup. I'm a bit nervous for him. He knows that he's the underdog in the bullet portion. I would not say he is a 3-point underdog in that time segment. So he has to be the favorite if we're putting odds on it. But projections don't take into account human emotion.
Right.
It doesn't take into account some potential tilt factor. I think Wesley can hold on to this. I do think he can. I do think he will. But Maxime is not going to make his life easy.
It's going to be exciting. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave won't make his life easy in bullet, and he won't make his opponents' lives easy in the first ever Puzzle Battle World Chess Championship that is coming up. What I can confirm for you right now is we all get set for the announcements we're about to make. I've been making teasers about this event all week, but MVL has committed to play. Ali Reza Farouja has committed to play. Ray Robson, also known as the Spicy Caterpillar, the legend, has committed to play. We are working on other top players. Expect more announcements soon, but it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a combination of Puzzle Rush and Puzzle Battle, our 2 most popular features, frankly, here. And watch out for Chess.com/news as we've released all the details. Anybody in the world can try to qualify for this event. Qualification opens up and begins on November 22nd. People will have to submit themselves, achieving certain records at Puzzle Rush on video, partly for the legitimacy of your candidacy to be qualified. And where it goes from there, we will let you know more details soon. But get ready. The Puzzle Battle World Chess Championship coming your way. Right now, we need to get ready for bullet, and the games shallst
begin.
Here we go. Bullet. We've got Grandmaster Robert Hess hanging out in the Chess TV chat. I see you over there, baby. I see you. I see you, Robert.
I'm getting involved. I want people, to know that I appreciate them and I'm here for them. And here we go. Bullet time.
We got chatters everywhere, no matter where you're tuning in from. Thanks for being here. We've had as many as almost 15,000 of you watching at one point today in English, and still it looks like to be about 12,000 of you with us. The bullet is on. If anybody left earlier thinking this was going to be a landslide, well, shame on them, because we have excitement.
Well, we have Evan's Gambit, of all things, to start off the bullet.
Wesley took off the jacket.
Oh, he's in for a fight right now. But if you look at this position, D5, isn't it when the there's no queen a4 check because you have c6 or something like that. So,
Knight g5 though. This is nuts. If you castle, there's queen h5.
Yep.
The
So
heads
knight
are
takes
dancing.
f7 here. Take on f7. You just got
Knight
to
takes
do it.
f7. You got to go for it. Lolly Gambit this bleep up.
This is fried liver material.
Knight
Take
f7, king f7, queen h5, king e6, rook e1. Ooh, or even queen f3 first. But the point is d5 is falling.
Yep. Because there was no rook e1, sadly, because the bishop on a5 was holding that square. But here, you won d5. The king is going to be in harm's way. There's actually nowhere good for that king to go. Bishop a3 check. That's queen e4.
Bishop a3 check might have been better. This is one of those. If this ends up being a consistent feature by Maxime, I wonder if he prepared anything special for Bullet to really try to take Wesley by surprise.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him because it looks like it's panning out right now. There's a king on d8. White's king is so safe over there. And, well, taking on d4 would be a disaster for black now. You're opening up the d file, and the king is on that file. Queen g3, threatening bishop g5. And your king got to run. You got to go king c8.
That's a queen. You got to get out. King c8, king b8. Cross your fingers.
Also, 25 extra seconds for
Maxime. This is why people thought the Bullet would be the toughest challenge for Wesley, and right now he needs to speed up. Look at him take the pawn. I don't even care if it works. Laugh in the face of danger, Simba.
Well, I don't know what kind of laughing you're doing, but this I think Maxime is thrilled that pawn was captured. It opens up the d file. Now you can take on b7. You can take on c7. d4 is going to be hanging in some of these lines.
We all remember it didn't go well for Simba for a long time, so yeah.
Yeah, well, he was forced to run away by his evil
Let's not
uncle.
talk about it. All right, c6 is played. The problem is the knight is pinned, and there's not a lot to do about it. Only 3 seconds, and playing a position with a king on d8, not your favorite thing. That wins a piece, and guess what? The comeback is on. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is about to take the first Bullet game. Wesley trying to play this one out a little bit, I think trying to shake off some nerves, but also from a practical point of view, the longer the games last, the better.
Yeah, it takes some time off the match clock, right? And just how much time is it? 27 minutes?
Yep.
If he can right himself at some point soon and just get a win here and there, and it's still a 2-game lead for Wesley. It's it's going real tough.
And by the way, this got a little bit harder for Maxime than he would have liked.
Yes.
Okay, still completely winning, but the point is, Wesley, if he was trying to take another minute off the total clock, he did so.
Yeah. And how many pawns is he going to lose in the process? Doesn't matter. He knows he's
been lost here forever. So what I like is the gamesmanship. I like the attitude, honestly.
And he's been playing with 1 second.
He's playing with 1 second on the increment, literally. And he's pre-moving.
Still not over.
I mean, when is Maxime going to push the a-pawn?
He's not. He's going to push the h-pawn instead. There it goes. Next comes the g-pawn. All right. Finally, he's got all his pawns gone.
Okay. This should be enough. Nope.
You didn't even seem convinced.
Wesley's going to play it out to checkmate because why not? Again, he just took a whole another minute off the clock. He's got a 3-game lead to protect. He knows he's down. I mean, he knows he's the underdog in the Bullet portion, and so Maxime's going to have to prove it if he wants that comeback.
He's smiling while he was getting checkmated. So, Wesley is always a good sport, and he's doing the right thing, right? In terms of gamesmanship, you're the one who generally highlights this point.
Yep.
But if you are up 2 games and you're kind of insecure about your Bullet skills here, and look what he's doing in this game. He traded off queens, getting into a position that should be slightly better for White, generally speaking, and with the theory behind him, minimal or less risk than some other variations.
Yep.
But of course, it's Bullet. Anything can happen. Blunders do occur. But I like Wesley's strategy thus far. Of course, he needs to stop losing games. That's essential. And I see Ben Feingold.
But I'm going to play devil's advocate to that. I mean, psychologically, you're kind of – I mean, okay, I guess the math probably checks out that regardless of psychological weaknesses, you should take time off the clock, protect your lead. But it feels like you're really submitting to the fact that you're the worst Bullet player when you do something like that.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference or a distinction, I should say, between being defeatist and being realistic. I mean, I think Wesley is the worst Bullet player.
Right.
But he's not giving up hope in the Bullet. And, well, I mean, if we want to talk about Bullet for a second, look at Maxime's time. He spent 2 seconds for the entire game. Obviously, he's been getting time back with the increment. But Wesley is up a pawn here, and so it's a position that Wesley will be extremely frustrated if he ends up losing this game because he's up a pawn. He has been. It seemed like a safe position, but now as things open up for the bishops, knight. So we got knight move. Knight.
Looks good.
Does this work?
Take it. Maxime is. That's what I'm thinking on the psychology here. I feel like that's almost submitting. I'm going to be worse every game. I need to get the clock down. But there's plenty of time for Maxime to come back. Like you've got to buckle up and know that you still got to win this thing on the board if you're going to win the match because that 2-game lead will go away in 24 minutes.
I mean, it's going away right now.
And it's going away right now, right? I mean,
that lead's about to be 1 game.
Let's remind everybody real quick about the daily question, just because it probably plays a little bit of a part here. We said that Wesley So, it is now 1:30 a.m. for him in India, and Maxime, of course, playing in his regular time zone. So, it is a difficult thing. Wesley's literally playing this match before the Calcutta Rapid and Blitz begins there for the Grand Chess Tour. Hikaru Nakamura there, along with many others. But it's not over yet, and he's played fantastic chess all day. I don't think Wesley would use time as an excuse, but if you get tired, Robert, I mean, that's a big deal. You got to be able to manage those situations here.
Yeah, though it's one of those things where obviously the players knew about this match pretty far in advance.
Right.
So you should adjust and prepare for it accordingly, and they did. And I'm not trying to criticize either player.
Yep.
And it is very fair to wonder if playing at 1:30 in the morning or whatever time it is right now in India is working against him. And it likely is, but there's only so much you can do, right?
Yep. Yeah, and to be fair, yesterday, I mean, obviously Ding was tired too, even though, those who work in organizing these things know that Ding actually suggested the match time for him. So it was like one of those things where it's very hard. These guys are very busy, and they love playing chess online. But, it's certainly something that's interesting. Maybe guys who pull long, late night owl hours have some kind of advantage in these formats.
Yeah, and that kind of bodes well for a player like Maxime, I would think, more than it does a player like Wesley.
I mean, right now he's just playing incredibly well. He's about to get another victory, and the comeback is on. Only 1 second for So.
But look at this pawn, by the way. H pawn, H1, doesn't match the bishop. Some outside chances, but no, the king is coming in first. Very smart of...
no, he can't reach the square.
Yeah, if his king was on H1, it would already be a draw. But his king
can't reach the square, too slow if he had reached H1. So Wesley shakes his head. He's trying to pull himself together here. We have a 1-game lead with only 20 minutes left. We are going to have fireworks here. It's going to be close. Can't wait to see where this one finishes.
I mean, this match has really turned around.
Yep.
This is shocking stuff. For Wesley, you need to just get something. You need to get half a point somewhere.
Yep.
And... I mean,
we highlight one of the best things about his personality typically is his calm demeanor, very level-headed, very objective and technical and accurate in his approach to the game and kind of off the board too. But everybody's a human being, and when you lose a few games in a row, even someone like Wesley might be capable of tilt. So he's got to stop the bleeding now. And
someone like Chess Brainiac 13 is capable of asking for a shout-out with a please at the end. So on Chess.com TV, there you go, Chess Brainiac. I see you. I've seen you throughout the match. So there's your shout out.
I feel like Chess Brainiac has been asking for me to shout him out in Chess TV for like months, and I've refused, and you literally just gave him what he wanted.
Well, I'm also curious what's going on with that 5th grade class that was tuning in.
Oh, so yeah, if they're still here. Shout out to the 5th grade class. E4. So's getting back in it.
Yes, because you can't take on E4.
The pawn is pinned, and D2 is falling.
So do you play Rook D8 now, or do you take on D3? Okay,
so I like that he's building the tension, because he was saying if D4 happens, everyone, that the light scores were dominated and he would be in a great position for an attack. So he kind of forced Maxime to trade instead of pushing, and I think So has great chances here. Look out for these light squares. The bishop is the wrong color.
Yeah, this is actually quite unpleasant for Maxime here, as well. That queen gets to D5. Oh, there it is.
Here it comes. Knight's coming into F3. Maybe Rook G6 as well.
This looks
fantastic for Wesley. And by the way, for the first time in Bullet, well, not only does he get a win, that stole my thunder. I was going to say for the first time he's up on the clock, maybe he'll get a win. and Maxime just resigns. Now, that's good match strategy the other way. We've been talking about So playing it out, protecting the lead, everybody. For Maxime to have the experience himself, Robert, to say, hey, you know what? At best, I'm going to grovel and maybe draw this, but take another 3 minutes off the clock. Instead, just resign. Because at this point, what would you rank? How much is a half a point worth at this point with time? Like,
it's worth, I would say, about 2.5 minutes.
Right. And so if he grovels and gets that draw but loses all that time, like it doesn't matter anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying I like the match strategy by Maxime to just throw in the towel early.
But that was huge for Wesley because
yeah, for sure.
He played a really nice game. He ended up winning. And look at this game now. He's white again. We have a Najdorf. He is just dominating Maxime's Najdorf. I mean, I'm not even saying this is a joke. Players might want to look at this match and be like, hey, Maxime has a scary Najdorf, but it doesn't look so scary based on what Wesley's doing. G3 traps the bishop.
G3 traps the bishop. So's about to stop the bleeding completely, maybe win his second game. Wow.
Oh, man. He's just picking that bishop up. You can't even take on H3 because knight D5 comes in. You're getting checkmated, it looks like. Oh, here comes knight D5. Just give me the whole thing.
With Tempe. Oh, owie.
Give me everything. Just take on H4.
Knight F6 check first, then take H4. And if you take F1, I'll take G7. Oh, you could have even taken G7 and oh no, this is even better. Patient. You're not going anywhere. Yeah, he just resigned. Whoa. Wesley So strikes back, pushes things to a 3-game lead yet again.
Look at this turnaround.
Amazing. Scoreboard updated wrongly. We'll fix it, everyone. Maxime has 11.5 and Wesley has 14.5. But yes.
Yep.
Huge victory there from Wesley So. Keeps the chances of winning this thing alive. Doesn't let Maxime ever get fully back in it to tie the match.
And look at this G5 move. Typically, you don't want to push pawns in front of your king. We've said this several times in the match today. But with this F6 pawn protecting the pawn G5, it limits the knight on F3. It limits the bishop on D2 scope. And so black is just taking over space, saying, I'm going to double my rooks in the E-file, perhaps. And I can play G4 right now and say, where's your knight going? In fact, your knight has to go to H4 if you go G4.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't do that, actually.
And still G4. No, G4, the knight can... okay, now H3 is played, so you can't go G4.
Back to being a little patient here, which probably good. Now notice the time. Maxime has picked up his tempo here.
Mm-hmm. He's moving quickly. He knows, well, his back's against the wall, 17 minutes left about.
Yep.
And need to get victories, right? Draws don't help him at all. He just scored consecutive wins in the very near future. So he's trading pieces.
Takes, maybe queen B3. Oh.
So is he going to take B4? That's the essential question. He does.
He does,
and the dark squares, though. Knight G4 comes. Bishop takes G5.
Bishop takes G5, and E5 is open for business.
Yeah.
Wesley missed that.
I mean, I was looking at the king on F7 thinking he was strange, right? But then there's the knight E5 square. So bishop takes G5, steals that pawn, and with it, I think he's stealing the game because knight E8, just bishop takes F6. Keep taking where the protection of the E5 is dropped. And now just take on F6.
Take everything. Take G7 even. Trade it all.
Play queen F3 if you want to be safe and trade queens off the board.
Yeah, get the ladies off the board. Don't let there be anything nasty on the H file. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, looking good.
Yeah, if you start doing the math here, everyone, every game is super important because with 3-game lead, 15 minutes on the clock, MVL totally within striking distance, but you start to really watch the clock as far as evaluating his chances.
Ooh, and he knight E5 check, but still the knight protects the C6 square. And we know Wesley's strategy, right?
Yep.
Wesley's strategy is to play every single game out until checkmate to waste as much time on the game clock as possible.
Yep.
And that's smart, right?
Yep.
It's a logical thing to do.
Yep. And, Maxime made very quick work of that one, brings it back within 2 games. Shout out to Grandmaster Caden Trove hanging out in the Chess TV chat. And everybody over there. Caden's played one of these matches long ago, before there was the Speed Chess Championship.
I haven't heard the name Caden Trove in a really long time.
Yeah, but hanging out on Chess TV. Caden practically grew up on Chess.com. So,
well, it worked out in his favor. Right? Became a grandmaster and is a very strong player. And right now here, we have
2
another
games.
Sicilian.
This is crazy.
What do you think about this Sicilian, Danny? different style. We have the Dragadorf.
What is this? This is a hybrid of everything. It's a Dragadorf Scheveningen with the knight on c6, a classical Sicilian. This is so crazy.
You like crazy, though.
I do like crazy. I mean, again, I like white, just like I did in the Dragadorf, and here it's easy for me to say that after he wins the pawn. Okay, but here comes black again with comp. Knight c4, forking b2, and the dark square bishop.
I like black. We're changing our tunes here. So just play queen b7. Okay, takes it. That I didn't love so much.
Yeah, but e7 was hanging. So, I mean, b3. Really kind of taking his time here to get that king out of the center. Makes me nervous.
Well, he's trying to play c4, which just shuts down that bishop. Queen a5 check with bishop d2 here, then play c4 after. Queen a7. c4 is meant by knight d3 check.
Very nice. Tricky. C4, knight d3. And if you castle, now you have time to take advantage of the pin, or do you? h5.
Nah, this is bogus in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking to get a victory here if I'm so. I mean, this is looking better for white.
But I like the practical decision by Maxime just now to sacrifice the piece, because there is hope to survive. The problem is it's going to take a lot of time off the clock.
Right.
However, he's only down 2 games. So if he can avoid losing this one and just somehow hold this endgame, then he's still in the match. But if he loses this and spends time losing it, that's a disaster.
It's now draw or go home for Maxime, kind of, right? You have to keep this a 2-game. You have to keep this a 2-game score. Now, that's not totally true. For those of you wondering, I think the biggest comeback we ever had with a little amount of time was Jan-Krzysztof Duda last year was down 2 games with 6 minutes left and beat Grishuk, and it didn't even matter. It didn't even need overtime. Right? Yeah. You remember that.
Yeah, it was the buzzer beater.
Yeah, buzzer beater. So the biggest comeback we've ever seen with little time was 2 games by Duda with 6 minutes to remain in last year's SCC.
You think he should have resigned this game? Because right now it's looking
it's getting. I mean, you're getting in that territory where you either need to resign with 12 minutes or you better hope you can draw.
Oh, mating net. Knight f6, rook g8 mate. Oh, knight takes d5, stole a pawn and stopped the mate.
Yeah, that's nice.
And now knight c7 to e6. Actually, okay, I'm taking back my words. I was saying maybe he should have thrown the towel. But
it's not so simple yet, because if you move the knight, I will get knight f6. Okay, f5. That's nice.
Wow, what a move.
He's going to force the rook and bishop versus rook endgame. But look at So. He wants more. He didn't trade everything on f6.
Yeah, but if he takes on f6, I'm scared of that pass pawn now.
Yeah, that's a dangerous pawn. You bring that bishop in, and it's mate on the back rank.
Yeah.
Okay, but how do you get the king up? Oh, look at this, working it. Now bishop d5. Oh, he missed it. Check and bishop d5, and he wins the rook.
Oh, my gosh.
That's huge. Oh, that was not the kind of loss you want, because too much time went away with it.
He still has time to catch up. It's still 11 plus minutes. So it's not, but he's just in that critical territory of, hey, I really wish I had resigned 2.5 minutes earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard because you don't want to resign 2.5 minutes early. You felt like you had a chance, but then it crossed that territory where he was almost pot committed. He had to try to see if he could hold it, right?
Yes. You know, he was all in at that point, and mentally he was all in. So he just had, I got to keep playing. I got to go for it.
Well, look at this game. He's all in on this position. This is fantastic for white.
Oh,
what happened here?
You couldn't ask for a better position.
Yeah,
you can't take another 6.
This is a great way to come back from that loss. Make a comeback, bring it to within 2 games again, and you still give yourself we'll call it a Jan-Krzysztof Duda's chance.
Did he blunder? Because knight takes e5. Oh, knight d7 check.
Owie.
Okay,
well, Wesley's like, oops.
I thought Maxime blundered, but it turns out it was Wesley who ended up blundering even.
He's got his head in hand. He knows he needs to keep the game going, though, because he has to keep the time ticking away.
I can't wait to ask Wesley what it's like playing down a queen, because that never happens for these guys.
Yep.
So I'm very curious to know, like, he's obviously very upset, and he keeps shaking his head in his hands. But it's pretty hilarious for us to see Wesley So playing down a queen.
And again, he's clearly getting a little bit exhausted there, but you don't see them try to defend positions like this, so maybe they come up with creative ideas that we don't normally see every day.
This is awesome.
Down
I'm
a
so
queen,
glad I'm here for this.
completely dead. Look at Maxime, the technique. Rook takes e6.
the technique up a
Queen
and other
D7,
material.
mate. I loved it. So was kind of laughing it off there because he's like, well, that didn't go well.
That was impressive finding the quickest checkmate like that.
Yeah, that was no. That's what I was. You thought I was kidding. The technique was real, dude. That was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
dude,
he's
for
getting
all of
ready
our
for Puzzle
criticism
Rush.
of him losing that game and all the time, he just won that game in what, 75 seconds?
That was a pretty quick game, yeah. But he's proving that he's going to be a force in the Battle Rush Championships because that was very quick tactical vision, and from experience that you make a great move that's not the absolute best move, and you're like, wrong. Whew, okay, so let's see. We have 9 minutes in the match clock, which means we have about 4 games maximum left because Wesley's using all the time on the clock. Great.
And this is not the kind of game Maxime wanted. This is going to be a grinded out, almost, dare I say, a 2-result position for White already, Robert?
Oh, yeah. This is just very pleasant for White. Black is going to play knight e7, knight f5, and try to hold down the position.
But I feel like that was a poor opening choice. You almost would rather risk it, no risk it, no biscuit in this sort of line of work when the clock is ticking away.
Right.
So, I mean, Wesley doesn't need to go for anything crazy. Knight h3.
He'll play e5. He's got a little something here.
Okay, he's coming back, but it's now the king side is a little sensitive. That g6 pawn.
And the position is very close, which means that even if Wesley eventually loses this game, I could see this game taking 4 more minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so closed.
Okay, but if you're Maxime and you win just one more, you're within a game, right? You've got to get it. Got to get it to 1 here.
Yeah, I think you just cannot lose this game, obviously. So even if he makes a draw, he needs to do whatever he's going to do quickly.
Yep.
And losing is...
Whoa. So it's about to get his queen trapped. Did he just get his queen trapped?
Oh, he's queen f5. Oh, my God.
Oh, that was sick. I wasn't looking for it. Knight e6 would allow queen f5 and the pawns. I don't think Maxime saw it either.
I mean, that looked still very dangerous for White, but
now he can play knight f2 in some positions. Not anymore. h4's falling.
Oh, take that. Take that pawn.
Take it.
And then,
although knight f4 next, then the rook is kind of...
Yeah, but if you go knight f4, have queen f5... Oh, the g6... No, well, I'm not calculating. I'm just suggesting moves, and that looks like the g6 pawn's hanging, but maybe black is still okay there, and he's calculating it. But he was queen d6, is keeping the knight on h3. I think this is smart. Queen f5 can't be played. The g3 rook is not protected, so just play knight e6. I like it.
Okay, wow. Look at Max. I mean, look at the credit he gets. Suddenly he's the one pushing here.
Yep.
A lot of time coming off the clock, but if I think he could get this win now.
Yeah, knight takes d4 was a threat, which is why he went queen to
rook
f1.
e2, the battery on the e file.
Oh, that's a pawn. Stole 1 pawn. Here comes rook e2. Oh gosh, the second rank is black's for the taking. The king is not safe.
Here
comes Maxime.
This is going to get to 1 game. It's going to come down to the clock.
Oh gosh. So, but 8 seconds for Maxime. He's
5
spending a
seconds
lot
for
of time.
Wesley, though. Okay, no. Whoa.
Take on
He missed that.
outside pass pawn.
Who's better, though? White has 2 of them.
No, black is definitely better here. Play g5, get another outside pass pawn.
Okay. And I thought the connected passers would be good, but okay, black is too fast with h and a.
Yeah, here comes the king back, or the knight. Okay, whatever. He brings the piece back, and then he's h and f too, so the king on the king side can't protect both pawns.
This is crazy.
Play h4. Yeah. Play king.
Now king d5. Okay. You can win all the pawns. Whoa, he blundered the a pawn. It's going to be a draw.
He blundered.
What a huge save by Wesley.
Oh my gosh, Maxime was just playing too quickly.
Yeah, he just missed that fork trick. It's going to be a draw.
Oh, that's brutal.
What a save right there.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Wesley just did him a favor by taking that before letting the 13 seconds run off. He could have taken another 15 seconds away roughly and then taken the pawn.
That was such a well-played game by Maxime.
Yeah. No, he deserved that win, but Wesley steals stalemate, and with it, he maintains a 2-game lead with 5 minutes left here. Oh man, this is why we do this right here.
And that's the tricky part about playing with a timer, a countdown, because Hikaru Nakamura, the best bullet player that we've seen online here, and I guess Magnus can be in the debate, but okay, we see Hikaru playing regularly. And those moments where you have to spend an extra half second or spend a full second. And with an increment, you can afford to spend that second. But with the timer and the countdown, Maxime wanted to win that game as quickly as possible. Much more important than 10 seconds was winning the game. And so he should have stopped at that point. It's easy for me to say, I'm not in this very tense environment. I'm just commentating on the games. And, he needed to stop and think about it for just a split second more, and he would have won that game.
Crazy. Jan Nepomniachtchi says world champion at his best, referring to Wesley So. Fisher Random world chess champion.
Oh, that's funny. And, well, Jan knows the force of Wesley.
Of Wesley and Fisher Random, right?
Well, this looks good for Maxime again. If he could take that knight, it's a beautiful, dominant knight against an ugly.
Yeah, okay, but now we're officially in must-win territory from here on out.
Yeah, and we're also in positionally one position for white, right?
Right, no, Maxime should win this game, but he has to. It's now... we add drama sometimes and say it's literally must win or go home, but this is now it. It's white converts this game or Wesley So is moving on to the semifinals.
Yep. And actually, I think that white's advantage is disappearing very quickly.
Yeah, that was a nice way for So to close the B file with the bishop protecting the pawn.
And Maxime's getting super defensive here, but no, this is not playing for a win at all.
Yep.
I think he should have tried for something on the king side, some G4 at the right moment, because then E5.
Yeah, I agree.
Great.
I feel like the advantage was bigger in the middle game than it is here.
But he can still play for G4. Not yet. Maybe yet. But my point essentially is if he goes G4, then he can try to play E4. Well, now he definitely can't do that after this trade.
And look at So, by the way. He's also correctly using his time here. Just super impressive.
No, and then now Wesley's just better. B4 is hanging here.
Yeah, I mean.
That's it. He escaped.
Rook B3, forking the two pawns. Oh, man.
But the question for Wesley is, you just keep playing, right? How much time
at this point, you could almost clinch the match right here.
With a draw. Yeah, a draw actually will clinch the match because Wesley would just spend all his time.
Yep.
So
Maxime is in need of a miracle blunder, or his Speed Chess Championship is going to have to wait till next year. And with that, he resigns. I'm not sure he's aware of the total time, but that was probably the wrong decision.
H5, was that the right decision?
I think now he knows. He knows.
Yeah.
He's not trolling unless he knows. He officially sees the match go away with that loss, and Wesley So will be heading to the semifinals. Crazy. I really thought Maxime was going to get that win there and bring it to one game.
I thought so as well. I mean, he was on a tear, and it looked like Wesley was in danger of just collapsing. But kudos to Wesley. He hung in there.
Yep.
He found a way to survive that knight end game. I mean, that was just unreal because that was Maxime's game. It would have cut the deficit to 1 point. Instead, they draw. Maxime has to go all in. The next game, he loses a long battle. And
No, that draw swindle there really saved the match, right? That was a huge moment there, saving the game. If you're just tuning in, looks like we know who is moving on. Mathematically, it's pretty much certain. But we will still have interviews. Wesley So and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave will be joining us. We'll get both of their thoughts on the X's and O's, the practical stuff that went down, and, of course, we'll get Maxime's thoughts on his biggest match, the biggest match he's ever had in his career, which is tomorrow.
Against you.
That's
it is
right.
true. If he loses to you, it'll be a nightmare. So
now I almost feel like I have to let him adopt me, But I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let him. It's not going to happen, Maxime.
I think he'd be very upset if you let him.
Well, first of all,
he wants to earn it.
It should be consensual, though, if it's going to happen. I mean, honestly, if I'm going to let the adoption happen, it better be a willing thing. So, just making sure you understand that.
Yeah, I'm going to, again, change the topic back to the game that we have going on here.
Okay. Oh, man. It's going to be a fun interview. Don't go anywhere, everybody.
Yeah, and both these players are super nice. So, despite the fact that Maxime loses ultimately in the SEC quarterfinal here, he's a good sport. He'll give us some good information. And also, curiously, he won the 3-minute, and if he wins this game, he also wins the bullet portion. So if you take away the fact that he lost by 6 points in the
When you're
longest
down
time control,
7 games, it's hard to come back from that.
yes, for sure.
Wesley
did
lets
win this
himself
game.
lose on time. With it, we are out of time, actually, in the bowl. I didn't even realize it. The Speed Chess Championship Quarterfinal goes to the American by a final score of 17-15. There you have it. This gave us all we could handle, I think, despite the tilt by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave earlier. It was a thriller. Wesley so holds on. We'll be back with player interviews in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Missed that fork trick. It's going to be a draw.
That's brutal.
What a save right there.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Wesley just did him a favor by taking that before letting the 13 seconds run off. He
Oh,
could have
you mean
taken he could have taken another 15 seconds away roughly and then taken the pawn.
that was such a well-played game.
A premium membership at Chess.com will help you improve your game with full access to a powerful set of learning tools. Unlimited tactics let you practice like a master, with more than 50,000 puzzles to challenge you at every level. Our library of interactive chess lessons, created by master coaches, will enhance every aspect of your game. And after each game you play, the computer analysis feature will give you feedback on every move you played, turning every game into a chance to learn. And that's not all. Premium benefits also include unlimited tournaments, video lessons, the Opening Explorer, and much, much more. Upgrade now to take your game to the next level.
And we are now joined by our competitors here for today's Speed Chess Championship Quarterfinal. Grandmasters Vachier-Lagrave and So gave us quite the thriller today. Maxime, with the most important match of your career looming, less than 24 hours from now, you will have a match that will maybe define you as a chess player. How do you feel Wesley prepared you today?
I feel like the match was very tough, but at the same time, if I keep the quality of play I showed today, I'm not gonna adopt you, sadly. So I need to stay with them. But in general, this match was a bit strange because we both couldn't get to our best level at the same time. So it was generally the games were of poor quality by our standards, and I'm still happy I made it a match after my dreadful start.
Well, obviously, starting with kind of a funny question for those who don't know, Maxime and I having a fun match tomorrow. But, I mean, we have lots of serious chess questions ahead. And the truth is you almost did give us what would have been, for sure, the greatest comeback ever in SCC history, statistically. You trailed at one point by 7 games. And how nervous were you, Wesley, as Maxime was kind of mounting his comeback and giving you a scare there in the bullet?
Well, I was very nervous. I mean, obviously, I thought I was the underdog for this match, and I was so. Maxime is one of the best players in the world in Blitz, and also right now he's number 1 in the world in Rapid. So, other than Hikaru, I think he's one of the favorites to win this tournament. So the start in the 5 minute was obviously surprising. I couldn't have imagined that would happen. I mean, to be honest, I thought before the match I have to be leading before the bullet section because simply I think Maxime is much faster than me in bullet, as is clear in the match. And before the bullet, I was actually leading by 3, but then I think I lost my first game. Did I lose my first 2 bullet or just 1?
Your first one.
First one.
Oh, first one, yeah. Then I think I was losing also in the second round. So things didn't seem very bright at that point. But somehow things changed and miracles happened. I think at some point I was leading the match by 1 or 2 points. So that was obviously critical. And in the end, I was basically saved by the bell. And Maxime ran out of time.
Yeah, Maxime, I have a question for you about the 5 minute portion. Of course, the result didn't go your way, but I have more of a question about your openings. You kind of went away from your traditional Najdorf early on. Was that specific preparation against Wesley, or did you just feel like mixing up your repertoire for today's match?
Yeah, I really didn't have any opening preparation sorted out for today. I have work to do, but sadly on another tournament in Jerusalem, so I didn't really prepare. And when it was clear that my Najdorf wouldn't make the cut at least for the 5+1 games, I started to deviate everywhere I could.
Maxime, how tough is that where when the losses start happening, and we know that tilt can happen in this match format? You've played in as many Speed Chess Championships as anybody, but what is the takeaway after that when you know that you came so close to winning this match, ultimately mounting a very impressive comeback? But if you had just a couple of games back in the Blitz, and I'm not trying to ask a tough question, I'm just curious, what is the psychological takeaway of how to avoid tilt basically in this type of match setting?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize until late that I was on tilt. So this is the issue, that you don't realize it until it happens,
right?
Until it right in front of your face, and by then it's already too late. So this is the issue.
Yeah, I think I also tilted on the 3+1 section.
Right.
Yeah, I think I lost 3 games in a row at some point. But yeah, I guess I just felt a bit comfortable with the lead that I had. And I actually thought I would do better on the 3+1. But somehow I got pressured by the result.
Wesley, do you know this is the first ever 3-1 segment you've ever lost?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, not only I lost, but I think I lost by a horrible margin.
Well, you lost to Magnus, you lost to Hikaru, but you won the 3-1 segment against Magnus. You drew versus Hikaru, and this is the first time you've ever lost a 3-1 segment. So, in a way, it's kind of like Maxime won the match.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. yeah, because I usually lose a lot in bullet, but I tend to do well in the 5+1 or 3+1.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for both of you. I mean, when it was such a big lead, it went all the way up to 7 points. Maxime, what kind of ballpark did you want to get it back to think you had a chance in the bullet? And Wesley, you said that you got a bit distracted because of the lead and maybe you lost the thread a bit. What kind of lead were you trying to keep for yourself heading into the bullet where Maxime was the perceived favorite? I mean, it's a question for both. You can, whoever wants to start.
What kind of lead? Well, I was hoping to score 50% or 45% on the 3+1 section. But again, Maxime had a point. I mean, the match is long, so the most important thing is to play well. And it was clear that I was flagging. I was losing energy around the middle of the match. And it wasn't a very good finish.
Yeah, and on my side, of course, ideally I would have been on 50% or more before the bullet section. But once I was done by 7, I mean, any sort of reducing of the margin was fine by me. So yep. -3, -4, even -5. I mean, of course, with -5, it's very difficult to mount a comeback in bullets. But anything but -7, basically.
Yeah.
I also estimated that the bullet portion usually goes around 10, 11 games per match. So yeah, -3 was actually quite a and Maxime almost did it.
It's definitely a match strategy we talk a lot about because of the unique format with time ticking away, right? So you know you're trying to come back, Maxime, but you also know there's a clock running out. Because of that, there were some games that were really a close call, whether to resign, whether to play it out. What was sort of your strategy there? You had one game you played out really far, trying to hold the draw down a piece, and ultimately that loss hurt. Then there was the game you resigned very quickly when it looked like Wesley was bringing the knight to f3, and maybe you could have held on there if you had a move like c4 or something. And anyway, I'm just curious what your match strategy is to resign quickly versus play on when you know you're trying to mount a comeback.
No, but c4, knight f3, and queen d3 felt resignable. Maybe it's.
I think if c4, knight f3, you can play king h1.
Yeah, maybe, but I just didn't see a defense, and I resigned. But of course, every half point is critical in this situation. So you just decide whether you're too lost toward or you have a chance, and so you have to keep fighting on, even if that means losing 2 minutes ultimately.
Right.
You have to go by your feelings. Yeah. So
is there a criteria? Would you rank a half point worth 3 minutes or something like that? Are you thinking like that at all? Or it's just a feel all right, I need to give away this game. I shouldn't even try to play this anymore.
Well, to be honest, half a point, if you have a chance to hold half a point, it's worth at the very least 3 minutes, because 3 minutes is length of one game.
Right.
So.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. I guess you just solved the math. I'm not good at math. But makes sense. Well,
But it's probably more.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, the most important part is to, when you get an advantage or winning position bullet, to not make any accidents. That's the simplest. Like, I think in the second bullet game, I was probably lost or had a bad position, but then I somehow won.
I think I won the first 2 bullets, then I lost 2 in a row, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I don't remember either, actually.
Did I lose the first or I lost the first game?
I don't think the lead ever shrunk to 1 game, right? It was always 2.
I think it did.
Oh, it did. That's right. You won the first 2 bullet games. I mean, wow, it's been a long day, apparently. Yeah. No, it was obviously very close, and we were all on the edge of our seat, and yeah, I mean, it was very difficult for both of you guys. Wesley, last question from me anyway is our daily question today was asking about time zones and how difficult it can be to play late. Obviously, you're in India right now. It's what for you, 2 a.m.?
Yeah, almost 2:30.
2:30. I know you're like me. You like to go to bed around 9 p.m. with a nice cup of warm milk and a good book. That's me and you, buddy.
I thought you go to bed at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yeah. So how is it for you staying up way past your bedtime playing this late? And do you feel like it affected anything?
Well, it's obviously not ideal. I mean, I prefer to keep to my time zone. Also, the Grand Chess Tour starts in a bit more than a day. So yeah, it's not ideal, but I can't complain. I mean, the good thing about Speed Chess, you can play online and you can play anywhere in the world, and your opponent can also play anywhere in the world. So yeah, it's amazing how technology has advanced compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I heard also Tinglerens started to play at 1 a.m. earlier today. Right, it was 1 a.m. in China when his match started.
Yeah.
So I can't really complain. But but yeah, I mean, I was lagging in the final half of the match, but it's very fortunate I managed to somehow win.
Well, we hope you get some rest before the Grand Chess Tour Rapid and Blitz begins there in Calcutta. Congratulations again. Maxime, last question for you. Predictions right now have you winning tomorrow's match by about 33.5 to a half, according to chat, because you're going to lose one. You're going to draw 1 game to me via mouse slip. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say that if I go for mouse slips, I think I'm going to drop some games.
Well, what if you
gonna be half points mouse slip?
If you win 33.5 to half, isn't it like a triple adoption? What happens in that case?
Yeah. Like, don't
Then
you have to
what?
like take me out for like pizza and a movie, like a dad date? By the way, if you adopt me, how much video game time do I get allotted? Like as my dad.
What did you say?
How much video game time do I get?
How much video game time? Well, I mean, you're grounded, so...
I'm grounded already? I didn't even do anything yet. All right, Wesley, I know you want to get in on this action and try to adopt me, so just hook up with Nick and get on the schedule. We got super GMs lining up to try to adopt a Danny.
How does it work again? If you have 30 seconds to spare, how does adopt a Danny work?
So the way it'll work is we're going to have 3 disciplines, the major Speed Chess Championship disciplines, but I think we won't have increment, so it'll be 5, 3, and 1. The way it works is you're competing against a countdown timer to try to adopt me, but no adoption can end if time runs out. So if Maxime has won like 6 games and time runs out, I still have to draw or win to stop the adoption. So that's kind of how it works. It'll be a 3-hour match. I think viewers can donate to go toward both Maxime for his efforts and maybe some sort of charity. We're pulling that together. I don't get anything for being there besides publicly humiliated, so that's the story of my life. I don't even get any money for doing it, but it'll be fun.
Basically, all you need is 1 draw out of each 5 minutes.
Don't make it sound like it's easy. Don't make it sound like it's easy. I All right.
Okay.
Hey, you guys have been great. Maxime, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Wesley, good luck in Calcutta. And
Thank you. Good match.
Congrats.
Bye, guys.
And of course, good luck in Calcutta.
Thank you, Maxime, and congrats on a well-played Grand Prix in Hamburg. And I'll see you in Israel.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Bye.
Those guys are awesome.
They're so nice. You know, Denny, we forgot to ask one important question, I'd say.
What's that?
Well, now that Wesley So's on to the semis, we didn't ask him what he made of his chances against Vladislav Artemiev.
Oh, it's true. Well, we'll ask Maxime tomorrow while he's playing me who he thinks is the favorite. It's pretty late for him, but no, they really are great guys. And Wesley So wishing Maxime the best of luck in the candidates, which likely it looks like Maxime will make it, so that's amazing. And Maxime wishing him the best of luck in the Grand Chess Tour final Rapid and Blitz leg before the London Championship, the London Finals. So there you go. We've got Wesley So facing off against Vladislav Artemiev. It's amazing to think that Artemiev may really be the favorite in that match. I know he's the new name on the block, the new kid, but that guy has been so impressive. I don't know. I mean, to me, I look at Wesley So as the favorite. Who do you think?
I love how you just juggled that answer and you came up with a solution. I don't know, so let's make Robert do it.
Yeah.
And I'm uncertain because Artemiev got off to a very bad start against Levon Aronian, but he proved, just like Maxime did, that he can mount a comeback. And I do think that Wesley is currently the stronger of the two players in classical chess, and I don't think that Artemiev's B3, Bishop B2 systems will kind of do him justice against Wesley So. So I'm saying Wesley is the favorite. I think that Artemiev is probably, I give him around 40% or so, but he's hard to gauge thus far as he's dominated by the final score of his two matchups. But Wesley So is just a monster at these SEC matches.
Well, we got one more matchup still. That'll be on December 4th. But right after this show, let's remind you, as soon as Robert and I sign off, the ladies take over. Maria Emrilinova, Anna Rudolph, Alexandra Botez, and Jennifer Shahadi. Femme Batal, we've already had thousands donated and more to come, I'm sure. These ladies battle in team chess for charity. It's going to be a blast. Team McBlasterson. I got some pizza to get from my producer here who's worked super hard. I got some private discussion with Robert that I don't want to talk about on air. Let's just say it may or may not involve the beard. But
it's No Shave November, Danny. You cannot possibly criticize me during this month.
Nobody even does that anymore. No, I'm kidding. I do a lot of things. You're criticizing me because I don't have a beard.
I'm criticizing you for criticizing me when No Shave November is to raise awareness and money for
cancer. That's
men
right.
who suffer from cancer. Exactly.
Right.
So,
and it is a great cause.
I donate, I support, and I sport the beard. So, and the long hair. I want a haircut too. Don't get me wrong. I want scone, but it's the month of November.
Yep.
So way to rub it in. Way to remind me.
No Shave November. Make your donations. I will donate, though I will not have a beard. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Tomorrow we've got more action. Stick around for Femme Batal. And next time Robin and I have the call in a Speed Chess Championship, it will be December. And we'll see you then.
Absolutely. See you, everybody.